Hey, look, thanks for joining us tonight, Eddie. We got Eddie in the house. Hey, Eddie, what did you think of your experience on the Atheist roundtable?
I got beat up. No, it was great. I liked it.
Look, you had Tom Jump siding with you, man. That's like one of the
I
most...
know that. I have to holler at Tom for that. Give him a what?
He's one of the most famous non-sexy atheists that we have that join our stream.
And
Definitely not sexy, right, Oz?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We had a competition once, Eddie, on like the 1 to 100th sexiest atheists. Tom didn't even make the cut. Oz was up there. Oz was like number 4, I think. Right, Oz?
Hell yeah.
Was it 3? Was it 3 or 4?
I was 2. What are you talking about?
Okay, number 2.
you can't be that big brother look, man. You know.
Yeah, you guys look like you could be coming from the same family.
We used to bang together.
Well, look, if you are fans of TikTok, check out some of Eddie's rants. I think you should change your TikTok angle to Eddie's rants, man.
I might do it.
Shit is funny, man. And that one guy, I'm glad he got taken off. Fishman or Swordfish, whatever.
Oh, man, I have no patience for that.
That man was ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked him, trolling back and forth. That was fun until I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, there's trolling, and then you're just straight up ignorant, sir. And
yep. I agree.
People can't understand what freedom of speech is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Eddie, again, man, thanks for joining us, Atheist Roundtable. Oz, thank you for delighting us with your presence, even though you're obligated contractually. You'll be fired, that means. That's what that means, Oz. You'll get your little black box with all your atheist contraband, and you'll be out that TART door, just like J. Mike, because we fired his ass.
Peace out, homie.
Just kidding. J. Mike left, dude. He left us in the dust. He's like, you guys don't say fallacy enough and panacea enough. I'm out of here. I was like, what?
Your fallacies are fallacious.
Hey, there actually is a fallacy.
Yeah, I know.
There is.
Your fallacy is fallacious.
Yes. I like the bacon and eggs fallacy myself. It drives those Muslims crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Pasta, will you send me Eddie's email so I can send him the invite for this, please?
Yeah, it's I like hanging with atheists, Eddie@gmail.com.
All right, got it. That was easy.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you, man. But hey, guys, thanks again for the camaraderie, the community. This is a demonstration of bridging the gap between believers in deities, non-believers in deities, and folks that just don't stand for bullies.
That's right.
You heard me?
You heard.
Thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Atheist Roundtable.
Peace out, gentlemen.
What's up, Eddie? How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic.
So, some say that you got a little bit of a relationship going on with the TART fellas. I shouldn't say the TART because it's kind of a double but we say the TART boys around here when we pull our britches up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't kiss and tell.
Well, man, we're glad to have you back. I saw you wrestling with Oz backstage, and going to be taking some calls from some folks.
Sounds good to me.
Look, let me get you in right here. That's a good-looking hat you got there, my man.
Appreciate it.
Howdy. Look, 706-236-7608. You want to holler at Oz or Eddie?
Yep.
Get a chat with the theist or an atheist. You want to talk about science, religion, biblical slavery, Abraham Lincoln. What you want to talk about, Eddie?
Anything and everything.
Well, man, I'm going to get Oz in here so you guys can chop it up. We got a little bit of a surprise for you later because I know you wanted to carry on a conversation with Jeff. and I was hanging out with some guys in TikTok's atheist green room. It's not as cool as the TART one, but I got a guy that wanted to come on and chat about morality with you as well. Got to bring him in a little bit too.
All right.
Yeah, man. But I'll get Oz. Let's see if he's done with that atheist popcorn.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, baby.
Wow, you're looking country tonight.
That's right. That's what I was going for. I got to play the part.
What's up, man? How you feeling?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm pretty good. So did you cover all the bumps and bruises? Did you recover from the other night?
Yeah. I got thick skin. I'm good.
Good. I know. Jeff came in. He gave you the 2-piece and a biscuit. So I just wanted to make sure you're still doing all right.
Yeah. He bounced out. Come off top rope and all that. But it's all good.
No, that was a great show, man. We had fun. I've been talking about that show last couple of days since we ended. So appreciate you coming back on tonight, man. And looking forward to taking some calls with you, because the one thing I've been excited about is, it's not usually done where you have a theist and an atheist taking the calls together. Especially theists and atheists that can disagree but still have fun, get along, have an open dialogue. So I think that'll be awesome. So what do you? I know you've got from what I hear anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've started getting some other invitations. People want to have conversations with you. Am I hearing through the grapevine accurately?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It's fantastic. I told you, I kind of stumbled into all this, but I've always had a passion for, trying to bridge that gap and fix some relationships. I don't care anything about converting people or anything like that. I want to let them know that, there's some Christians out here who don't act like the idiots on the internet. So, people out here who actually care and love everybody like we're supposed to.
Yeah, and the one thing I was joking around with Pasta before the show tonight, I was like, cool thing about having Eddie is with certain Christians, especially the fundies that call in, if they call in tonight, it's one of those things where I can be like, Pasta, just take me off the screen. I'm gonna go grab a cigarette and a drink, and just let Eddie handle this, and I'll be back in a minute.
Absolutely.
So I don't have to be the one ready to go for each one. But since you have the hat on, this one popped in my head a minute ago, and I have this argument oftentimes. Are you a Johnny Cash fan at all?
Oh yeah.
Is Johnny Cash a country musician or a folk singer?
Yes.
No, I need one. I need one or the other.
He's a one of a kind. He split a lot of genres. So man, it's hard to say. Kind of went.
God, you sound like a fundamentalist, man. I'm so disappointed. Just answer the question.
Country.
Get him off, Pasta. Take him off.
You forced it. I mean, come on.
No, I totally disagree. I think he's a folk singer through and through. And there's, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of country, you hear pop out.
I wouldn't argue with that. He was one of a kind, man. He kind of did it all. So
yeah, he definitely was. I do agree with what you said the first time. He is one of a kind. He kind of, if there's anybody that kind of split genres and kind of covered multiple different styles or right. Singing and writing capabilities, it was definitely him. But
yeah, I think if gangster rap was around then, he'd have probably been a gangster rapper too. Pretty good too.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was, if I remember right, he was the first artist to go into a federal prison and and do a show with really no type of protection as far as guards and all that. So I still think that's badass. Yeah,
that's actually one of the things I admired about him the most was his outreach to those who were locked up. Going after the the ones that society has forgotten about and left behind. And that's what I loved about him was, he was one of the realest guys ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And leave it to a Christian to take Johnny Cash to an outreach in a prison. Jesus Christ.
You know what I meant. Show him some love.
I do. Obviously on camera you can't see it, but this wall over here is all concert posters, and there's tons of Johnny Cash that I have on the wall. I love his music. But now, we did talk about hip hop last time you were on, and I know I've heard you refer to listening to gangster rap or gangster hip hop a couple times. So, in your opinion, Eddie, best rapper alive, not ever, best rapper alive?
Tupac.
He's not alive, man.
No, that's what you say.
Oh, yeah. So here we go with this Christian shit.
All the conspiracies out there. Yeah. Alive, man. Oh, that's a hard one. I'm more of an old school, man. I'm not real huge on, I'm not a big Jay-Z fan. I like Nas.
Jay ate Nas for dinner, but keep going.
Man, it's hard to say. Probably lyrically, Lamar Kendricks.
Oh, he's beast. He's beast, no doubt about it. Yeah, Kendrick's definitely up there, and some people kind of look at me like crooked when I say this, but and unfortunately now he's went on this Jesus kick, but people sleep on Kanye West lyrically. Yeah. And Kanye, yeah, he can produce, but that man can write, and he can put down, he can spit
I agree.
bars for days. Yeah, he's a beast. Yep. But of course, I always hate saying M because everybody like, you're a white boy, you're supposed to say that, but M's still one of the greatest.
Yeah, I'm not down in him. I'll tell you who I really like. You heard of NF?
Oh, he's a beast. Yeah.
It's, man, I mean, to have, to keep it as clean as he does. I mean, it's hard to have them kind of bars, but the wordplay, man, that's what I love. He's one of my favorite, but I just don't think he's the best.
He's a poet. He's a poet that can just happen to be able to spit. You know what I mean? But he's a poet. And I always respect somebody's grind. And this is where I really don't care whether you believe in a God or not when it comes to your grind and your work ethic. To come where he comes from, and knowing his childhood and everything he experienced, if you come up and you conquer and you win and you defeat all those demons, I got to give you props. I have to.
Well, that's kind of, I'm drawn to Eminem and him because of that. A lot of similarities in the background that I had, and it's real life, man. It's, they talk about hard stuff, depression and mental illness and things that you just don't normally hear, so yeah, I definitely, man, they're fire for real.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one that never gets any play that should is Big Boy from Outkast. Nobody ever gives him nearly as much love as they should, but that man is a genius and he just gets overshadowed by Outkast, and what they did. So
yeah, my wife's a huge Outkast fan. So what Ice-T? What?
And he spelled it TEA.
Man, that is the whitest thing I've ever seen.
It's that sweet tea too. It ain't that straight up. It's that sweet tea.
Yeah, see, I can't do all that sweet tea, man. It's make me feel like I'm going to be diabetic or something.
So now, and are you talk, Austin? Are you familiar with Objectively Dan? He hosts Truth Wanted from the ACA. Are you familiar with him?
No.
Okay, so he grew up a believer. He's now an atheist, hosts a channel of his own. But him and I had conversations about gospel and Christian hip hop because when we were still in church, we listened to it. Now, I will admit that it's much different today than it was back, because I was in a Christian hip hop group that we actually had a decent amount of success and traveled and
nice.
Got to open up for a lot of the names that you hear today that are bigger now. But are there Christian hip hop artists that you listen to today?
Oh yeah, KB, and
okay.
Of course, Lecrae.
Great trip.
Yeah. So I like more. I'm not into Christian music. I just never really got into it. But there's a few artists that I actually liked before I found out they were Christians, and I was like, hey, that's double good. So, but KB and Lecrae definitely my top two on the Christian side.
Yeah, KB. I never got to meet him, but I know they run in that same circle.
Yeah.
But Lecrae, Tripoli, Tadashi, The Truth.
I like Andy Mineo. Mineo. Yeah, he's got some flow. He's
that man is very talented. I won't take it from him. Yeah, he's real good. There was another one I can't think of right now, but we actually did a Midwest. I don't know if you want to call it a tour or a cycle with those guys. That back then, I don't know if it still is or not because I don't pay attention to it. But it was Cross Movement. They were part of Cross Movement, and we got to open up for those guys, and a couple of them were cool as hell. The other guys were assholes. So,
yeah. Hey, man, you can't beat that.
But we had a good time. So cool. Hopefully we get a call or two in here. The call-in number is 706-236-7608. If you want to call in and talk to Eddie or Oz or both of us. Obviously Eddie is a Christian. I am not. And so we're going to bring two different views, opinions to that. Or it might be something that we actually agree on. One thing we don't agree on is the style of hats we wear.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I put a different hat on different times. It depends on what kind of facade I want to put on that day.
Okay. So you wanted to look like you're going to go jump on a horse tonight?
Yeah, I did. Matter of fact, this thing's uncomfortable. I got to take it off. So.
There you go.
Woo, I did as long as I could. That's it. Can't do it anymore.
Cool. Yeah. So if you want to talk, hit us up. But Eddie, anything you want to talk, even if it was to do with the episode the other night? I've been doing all the talking and question asking. Anything you want to say, ask?
Yeah. Why is Jeff an asshole?
Eddie, we have to keep this stream, within so many minutes.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to give a full explanation there, but I'll just say some of us are just born that way.
Oh, crap.
Look, there he is.
Darn it. Hey, what's up, man?
Oh, and he's muted, of course.
I was doing some work. Sorry, I'm talking to Christians on the internet.
Oh.
He said, I'm doing some work. Talking to Christians on the internet.
What the kind of Christians you're exposed to, it ain't much work.
Dum, dum, dum. So there you have it. Christians, if you're watching, 706-236-7608. Call and tell Eddie why he is the asshole Christian and not you.
Yeah, baby.
Tell him.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting on.
No, but Jeff, he gets upset sometimes because he does, he has the full head of hair, so that's cool. But then he tries to grow out the beard, and we were talking about that. It just looks like little pubic hairs.
Yeah, he needs to stop that.
Yeah, just cut it off.
Shave it and stay clean, man. There's a lot of women out there like clean shaven. Just play that part because the man thing ain't working. Ooh, that's a burn. That's a burn. It's only because I like him. I only make fun of people I like.
So I know, and I'm not looking at the comments right now. I don't know if T Jump's still here or not. But you're aware that you and yourself and T Jump were agreeing on Jesus, the existence of, so on and so forth. You realize you had an atheist agreeing with you, right?
Yeah, matter of fact, after this, well, I'm familiar with T Jump. I've seen him on a lot of stuff and got a lot of respect for him, but because of as a layman, I mean, dude's sharp. So I've always enjoyed, the people he's been able to stand up there and talk with. I mean, he does an awesome job.
Absolutely.
He holds his own pretty good. So I actually reached out to him afterwards, told him, hey man, I appreciate it. Having a little backup, kind of getting slammed, but no, yeah. Onyx, man, you broke out. Man, how old are you? You shouldn't even know about all this.
I'm probably older than you think because it's hard being this sexy, but we'll keep it moving. Yeah, T Jump's one of those, like if we were talking about earlier, like NF and Eminem, as far as the doing it on their own, doing it their way, and self-taught, and not that other people don't help you along the way, but your work ethic is greater than the opposition, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he can talk about as fast as Eminem raps too. Sometimes I got to slow him down and be like, what'd he say?
Yeah, he's and that's one of the reasons that I really appreciate him and respect him, is that he's just grinded it out and went after the information instead of just hoping that he stumbles upon it. He's chased it, he's went after it. So I think that's awesome. Now we are we're trying to find a way to spruce up that chair he sits on. We're trying to find a way to do that, but we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping we get him in a throne.
Oh yeah, that'd be sweet. Yeah.
Like King Jump, go from T Jump to King Jump, something.
Yeah,
like
after that. I saw I don't remember if it was on here that he did a show, or it was another one, and the chair that he was sitting in, and I was looking at my little swivel office chair, and I was like, man, I gotta step my game up. That's I mean, he's like a king over there. Got the microphone over here, and he's like, yeah, what's up? So,
yeah, my favorite thing to watch is I think it's either Sundays or Mondays, something like that. He'll go on and debate people while he plays video games, and I'm like,
that's funny.
I'm like, how, because I can't multitask for shit. Right?
No,
so I'm watching. He's having these philosophical debates while kicking somebody's ass on a video game, and I'm like, oh, there's the chair.
There it is, right there.
The chair.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like that stuff just blows my mind because my brain isn't wired that way.
Yeah, I'm one way. That's it. And I'm also ADHD as hell, so it's easy to get me distracted, and I'm probably not coming back to you if I go over here. So yeah, it's insane. I don't know how people do that.
Huh? What'd you say?
Yep. Uh-huh.
No,
Squirrel.
And again, if you're watching, you want to call 706-236-7608. You call in, and you have a question for a theist, ask. Eddie's a Christian. If you have a question for the atheist, I'll do my best to answer. But we'll get it in. We'll chop it up. I love that.
Kay was mad about the hat, so I got to put it back on.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually watching the comments this time. Last time, I didn't, ADD, man. I can't be watching people over here talking while I'm trying to talk. So,
yep, that's why I don't until I'm off, or I don't have to be fully engaged in helping the conversation keep going. I don't even pull it up because I'll be like, oh, what'd you say? Oh, what'd you say?
Yeah. So if somebody likes it, I got to keep it. I paid for it. It's been sitting in my closet.
What's that? Your microphone?
No, my hat.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Oz.
No, but yeah, going back to the other night. How did you? You gave us a brief answer, even on the the intro to the show when you and Pasta were talking about you kind of hit on it. But going through the process that Pasta and the team have put in place as far as kind of the being able to talk to 2 or 3 different people that have different conversation or argument styles. What did you take away from that as now a former TART live guest?
I tell you, I knew you guys were respectful anyway, but I thought it was handled, very professionally. So, and it wasn't, where you just get so many people just pounding on you at the same time. And man, I enjoyed it. I thought you guys did a good job. Now, granted, I didn't expect Jeff to be a mythicist. I mean, don't meet too many flat earthers, so it's hard to answer those questions sometimes when you don't expect it. Now, the circles, you know, I tend the people that I've been around are, you know, a lot higher up. Not that I deserve to be there, but it's just something I stumbled into, and you know, it's just not something they focus on because, you know, an atheist can admit that Jesus was a real person. It doesn't mean that he was a god or, you know, resurrected and all this. I don't think it's a hill to die on. There's, you know, better arguments against theism. So we typically don't spend much time, and I'm more philosophy oriented. You know, I don't do a whole lot of scripture things and history things. You know, I investigated all that a long time ago, which is, you know, what convinced me. And I've spent most of my time focusing on, you know, philosophy. So,
well, hey guys, I got a caller on the line. I'm sure you're wondering, and this is actually Summer. She's a progressive Christian. And she would like to aim her questions at the atheists on the panel, but I'm sure you can join in, Eddie. Hold on. Summer, you're live on the Atheist Roundtable.
Hi.
Hi, Summer. How are you?
Good. I have a couple questions, and this is more of me not wanting to debate necessarily and prove or disprove, but I'm just looking for a point of view.
Okay.
Because I find that as a progressive Christian, I have better conversations with atheists than I do with other Christians. So my question is, and this, I see Jeff more than I don't know any of you from anywhere else, but I do know Jeff from TikTok. And I noticed that a lot of it is disproving the more conservative Christians, but the more progressive Christians get left alone. Is that because we don't believe the Bible is infallible? Like, I'm trying to understand why progressive Christians are more left alone than more conservative Christians.
Well, it's for me. I'll speak for me. It's not necessarily that it's we just leave it alone. It's usually the squeaky wheel gets the attention. And a lot of your fundamentalist and your, you know, far right wing evangelical Christians, they're the loud ones. They're the ones telling us atheists that we're going to go to hell if we die tomorrow or today. They're telling us how wicked and evil we are, and we're doing the work of Satan. So that's why they get a lot of our attention, because they provoke it. So it doesn't mean that we, you know, like even with Eddie as a Christian on here, and, you know, Summer with you, I'm sure there's plenty of things that we can find that we disagree on, you know, in religious views or worldviews. But why do they get the attention? Because they ask for it.
Yep, they're definitely the loudest. What do you mean by progressive Christian? What makes you a progressive Christian?
Well, now progressive Christian, and I want people to understand this, especially if they're watching this on TikTok, because a progressive Christian is not like a denomination. It's not something used outside of the TikTok realm. But that's a way to identify that we are a safe space for other Christians, no matter if you are gay, straight, trans, non-binary. We are not a judgmental group of people. We affirm, we say that you are a beloved, wonderfully made child of God, no matter what walk of life. I personally, as a progressive Christian, we come from all sorts of different denominations. Yeah, I don't believe that the Bible is infallible.
I would say that you are a Christian, because I mean that's Jesus's words were, you know, to love everybody, to spread. That's what we were supposed to do. And unfortunately, that progressive label got put on to anybody that doesn't adhere to an ultra conservative, literal interpretation of Scripture. So there is a branch that's called liberal. I'm sorry, Jeff is distracting me. That's Jeff, come on, man. I told you I'm ADD. I got to, you know, focus. The progressives typically are the label is for those who deny the bodily resurrection, things of that nature. This whole you're a progressive Christian if you don't think gay people are going to hell and stuff like that. That's the ultra conservative. It's a scare tactic. It's part of their keeping everybody in line kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's an intentional thing. It's just the way that they approach it. So I would agree with you. I mean,
right.
LGBT, I don't care. I'm loving everybody. It doesn't matter to me. Jesus is for everybody. It's not for just a certain section of people. So I admire your stance. But I would caution against saying progressive, because that's more of a label that the ultra conservatives put on it.
But can we just use the Jefferson Bible then? Why do we have to use the real Bible?
What is Jefferson?
It's just the words of Jesus Christ, and it removes all the supernatural stuff.
Why do you want to take the supernatural out?
Because it's what progressive Christians are doing with the Bible. They're not taking it literally.
Well, if I can, hold on, guys. If we can go back to what Summer called in for. So Summer called in and asked a particular question.
This is for Summer.
So to go back to what you said, and Summer, you talked about for yourself and the people that you at least sounds like you associate with, that it's people, the humans are welcome, regardless of the lifestyle, the choices, things like that. And I could tell you, again, for even the ones on TART, you'll find, whether it's TikTok or whatever social media platform, a lot of times if we want to use labels, the progressive movement, I guess is what I've been hearing. We actually will defend the progressive Christians before we ever defend your more traditionalist and evangelical and fundamentalist, because they are more welcoming of the human and not just looking to condemn.
They don't pose a threat.
Yeah. It's you're not trying to take things from people, whether it's rights or choices or anything like that. So.
Okay, I'm glad to know that. And I have one more question.
Go ahead.
My other question is, in any religion, whether we're talking Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, whatever, I see a lot of debate me and prove to me this is correct, this is the one way, this is the true way. If faith in general helps somebody become a better human being, and their faith is not used to hurt or harm other people, why is there so much emphasis on trying to disprove that their faith is wrong from an atheist perspective?
Right. So great question. So before we go into that, I need to first ask you a question. Summer, do you want to know more true things than you know false things?
Do I want to know more true things than I know false things?
Yes. Do you want to know more true things than not?
This is, I'm going to give you a little background about me. I come from what's called Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod, which I consider a Lutheran cult. Okay. Very conservative, very, very harmful. I had a lot of religious trauma. So for 10 years of my life, and I was WELS until I was about 27. I'm now 37. So for 10 years of my life, I went through a journey of disproving what I could of that religion and trying to disseminate all the toxic doctrine that I was taught. And so I am somebody who wants to learn truth. I'm very open to someone saying, hey, what you were taught was completely wrong. Here is why.
Okay, so that's why I'm proposing that question before we go any other direction, so that you and I are on the same page. Because I'll tell you my answer first. I want to know more true things than not. So, Summer, do you want to know more true things than not, or do you have a different outlook on that?
I'm going to go at this from like a psychological point of view. If what I believe is false, or if what somebody who is Hindu or any other faith, okay, if what they believe is wrong and you can prove that, but it makes them a better person, do you want to ruin that or pick it apart? Or if it makes them a better person, why go out of your way to disprove it?
Okay, and that's where I was going to go next. I just wanted to hear your answer on that first, before I dove into that.
I'm all for truth. If you, yeah.
Okay, so we share that. I do not want to take anything from anyone. I'm not here to try to deconvert people. And as far as TART's concerned, we're not here to deconvert. We're here to challenge what people believe and why they believe it. How do they justify their belief? And if somebody truly, let's say, like I have a friend that's struggled with drug addiction his entire life, and now he's ran to faith and religion, and he's been clean, and he knows my stance. But guess what? I don't dare talk to him about it because I see what he's doing. He's not hurting anybody. He's not trying to take anything from anybody, and he's clean. And he's happy. So you know what? I don't talk to him about faith and belief or anything like that. Now, if it's somebody that is hurting people, like their faith and their religion and the dogma that can be involved in that, if it is now hurting people and wounding people, then that's when we have to start going for the jugular, so to speak, and find out what the root of that belief is and dig in. Does that help?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. But I think when I have these great discussions with atheists, and I have great discussions, a lot of where I get put off is that it's not necessarily unifying. It's let's find common ground. Even with me as a progressive Christian, when I say things like, well, the Bible is not infallible, or I think Noah's Ark is just a story or a metaphor, and Adam and Eve, that's just a story and a metaphor. Well, then why are you a Christian? And my answer is usually it makes me a better person because of what my faith in Christianity does for me. I'm a better person as a faithful person.
Well, but
then it goes on to prove it.
Well, and I'll say this, and I'll let Jeff jump in here, because I know you guys either follow each other or talk on TikTok. So
we're best friends.
Take up
my best friend.
The whole conversation. But when it comes to does it make you a better person? You may feel that way, but that's where this one that's a totally different conversation we were having before. We're talking about people that have addictions, or they're dealing with maybe even some mental health things where they found this moment of peace. And I would even argue that at some points. But just because you feel that it makes you better doesn't mean that it's the God or the religion that's making you feel better. That's why we dig into street epistemology and that kind of thing. But I'll stop here because we could keep going on that. But Jeff, what do you have to say to that?
I just have a quick question. Thinking about it from your angle, if Jesus was not divine and you did not know this,
okay.
Like there's no way to know. You don't know that Jesus was divine or not. So if he was not divine, yet the words that you have from Jesus's mouth that you find to be useful in your life, if he's not divine, does that change how useful those words are in your life?
No.
So then
no,
the divinity
and
of Jesus
for me, it's reading any other. Sorry,
so
go ahead.
We don't need to prove anything. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be useful in your life.
Correct. And I'm not saying, I don't mind if someone comes to me and says, prove it. And I'm just like, hey, I don't know, because I don't.
You don't need
I am about to go into seminary to learn theology and rip the Bible apart and try to put it back together again. So I am not in a pastoral space where I can sit there and debate theology until the sun stops shining. But I don't know. And a lot of theologians I know will admit they don't know either. They don't know all the answers.
I think that's the honest answer, is to say, I don't know. And that's where I think the radicalist or the sects of Christianity that I have a problem with are the ones that are like, Noah's Ark is real. It's 100% infallible. And I will not change my position on this. Those are the type of people that I need to break that mold and say,
I'll give you an amen on that.
Why you're saying these things and why you know this stuff. I don't have a problem with the majority of Jesus's teachings, like the majority of just Jesus's words out of his mouth, most of those ideas. But when you start claiming absolute divinity and all these other things, that's where I think we go down a slippery slope. And that's why I think progressive Christianity is just a step towards evolving that religion the next way, because it has evolved, every 150 years or so, Christianity takes on a new form. So I think that's your next form, especially with the way that classic Christianity looks at LGBT and progressive Christianity looks at LGBT. And much of the youth right now has a big problem with the way religion treats LGBT. And that's pushing a lot of youth away from a traditional Christian church and towards progressive Christianity or some of these other fling denominations that are now getting traction. Like not having female preachers, like that's also another one that's been a sticking point for a lot of people, and rightfully so.
Yep.
I think the damage.
Well, I felt that one heavily.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I think the damage is not the divinity of Jesus, but the church's involvement. And the church has so much, they have a certain way. All these different churches have a certain way that they approach scripture, and they need the Bible to say so many things. I think that organized religion itself is a way of controlling people, so I don't think it's so much the divinity of Jesus is the problem. It's these churches and people that, power. I mean, people always want money, fame, and power. So the more power that they have, so many people are power hungry. So I wouldn't focus so much on his divinity and more on those organizations that are using it to justify the things they do.
You don't respect the authority of the Pope?
No.
You can't get into heaven without the coronavirus vaccine. The Pope said so.
Oh, crap. Darn it. No, I'm getting the vaccine. Oh, yeah. I'm not an
that's
idiot.
what the Pope said. I told my mom that.
The mark of the beast.
My mom's like a super right wing, but she's also Catholic. And I'm like, the Pope said you got to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Summer, anything else before we keep it moving? Thanks for calling in, but anything else?
Nope. You guys answered my questions, and I think we've found some common ground. So that's good.
Awesome. Well, feel free to call anytime you want.
I understand you guys more. Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Summer.
Bye-bye.
Summer, bye. Take care. Hey, Eddie, how do you feel about female preachers and pastors and things?
I think anybody that uses, the Bible that was written in a male-dominated society to justify keeping women from being pastors today are just being sexist.
Don't you think the Bible is sexist?
It has sexist sentiments, yeah, because it was written as the culture in the world was, yes.
Jefferson Bible. That's what every progressive.
I wouldn't be if Jesus wasn't divine, I wouldn't be a Christian.
Well, I think that progressive Christians should just take the Jefferson Bible, relabel it as a new translation, and take it from a step forward as a new denomination.
You sound like the ultra conservative churches now. I'm not a progressive.
No, I'm saying that's what I would do if I was in charge of a progressive Christian church. I would use the Jefferson Bible and just use that.
Are you familiar with C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity?
Oh, we got a call.
Hey, you want to screen this one? Let Eddie.
Yeah, I'll screen it.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Hey, what's up? This is TART.
Penis in my butthole. Penis in my butthole.
Sweet.
Do you want to justify that belief?
I'm wondering if it can touch his butthole.
I think I'm going to stick to screening the calls because you giggle. You guys giggle like little girls. Anyway, we can skip the calls. I've got a couple of folks backstage that want to come and join the stream. First of all,
in Call of Duty lobbies, this is there's nothing you can really say that's going to get to me.
Rewind. So first of all, I got a couple of guys backstage that want to come and join the stream. We got an atheist from TikTok that reached out, wanted to chat with Eddie. Eddie knows who it is. Eddie, you know who this guy is?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact,
he's doing his. I think he's checking his camera out. Are you there, buddy? Let's see.
He's got some nice hair, so he needs to make the camera just right.
Well, hey, Oz and Just Jeff, you guys go back to the atheist hot tub. get those britches taken off. Get some bubbles.
Bubble.
Hey, Jeff, do you see how uncomfortable Oz just got as soon as you bring up the atheist hot tub? Like he doesn't hog it. You know what I'm saying? Like he don't spend all his time in that hot tub.
And what's a hot tub if you're not naked?
Exactly. Take them britches off, Jeff. What's up, JT?
What's going on, everybody?
Oh, man, looking dapper. Hey,
I'd go get the drip.
Hey, this is what we do when we have atheists on the show. We give them a round of applause. What's up, atheist?
Oh,
whoa.
I'm going to go ahead and take these off so that I don't have any glare on my face.
I thought you were going to chuck them behind you like Murdershed Steve does with his pipe.
No.
So, guys, I'm going to leave you guys to it. And I heard you want to chat with Eddie about morality, if that's correct, I believe.
Eddie responded to one of my videos on general Christian morality, and that was an interesting hot take. And he asked me to come on here and talk to him, so here I am.
Absolutely.
How's it going, Eddie?
Pretty good, man. I think I want to give everybody a little background of what it is. Basically, I'm sure most people here are familiar with the moral argument for God's existence, and JT had posted a video about grounding morality and in the nature of God and issues that it poses. And of course, being the smart ass troll that I like to be sometimes, I trolled him a little bit on it, and that's how we ended up here. And so instead of talking for you, why don't you go ahead and tell them what the post was about?
Yeah. So the post that you responded to specifically was actually a response that I had made to somebody else. And it was over the Euthyphro dilemma, or the Euthyphro dilemma, however you pronounce that, which effectively goes like this. Are things good because God commands them, or does God command things because they are good? If the former is true, then morality is arbitrary and therefore not objective, because it could just change like that. Whatever God commands is intrinsically moral. But then if the latter is true, God is simply a messenger. He just knows what morality is, and he conveys that to the rest of us. And a Christian TikToker tried to respond to that with the conventional apologetic response that it is neither. God commands things because he himself is good, that he is the standard of goodness, and that he only does things in accordance with his immutable, unchanging nature, which itself is good. And they said in the video that God can't lie. And so I posed the question, is honesty part of God's nature because honesty is good? Or is God's nature one of goodness because honesty is good? So it works both ways.
Right.
All you're doing is setting the problem back a step.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that everybody understands on this argument, nobody is saying that atheists can't be good. It's how we can have a grounding of morality without God. Anybody can be good. So I just, I want people to understand that, nobody's saying that atheists can't be good and act morally and things of that nature. So my objection was you had said something about God is good as a tautology. Can you explain it a little bit?
So whenever I ask, what do we mean by good, right? What do we definitionally mean by the word good? If I say a particular action or behavior is good or moral, what am I describing about that action? What is the symptoms of an action or behavior that make it good as opposed to bad? And if we say God is good, are we describing anything about God? Are we providing any information as to the way God behaves and acts? And the answer to that within Christian theology is no, we're not. We're just saying that God is himself. And we're taking the word good and literally defining it as however God behaves. God himself is good. And then the word just becomes meaningless. When you say God is good, you're just saying God is God.
Yes. And I wouldn't disagree with that summary of it. Now, the issue is this is, pretty high level metaphysics. And, a lot of Christians that parrot this don't even really understand how ontology works. So,
no disagreement from me.
Do what?
No disagreement from me.
Yeah. It's an ontology is a hard concept to grasp, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in philosophy. So the way it's supposed to be, it's not a tautology. It is the way that it's presented by a lot of Christians. It's good is grounded in God because of God's nature and character, and because God has goodness as his nature and character is what we say that good is. But when you go from it's grounded in God to how do we know, that's when you're getting into epistemology and out of ontology. So a lot of times people confuse ontology and epistemology by when you say that it's ontologically grounded in God, and they're like, but how do we know that? Well, now you're in epistemology.
Oh, I'm not asking how do we know. I mean, I'll take the argument at face value and argue within that paradigm. When you say God's nature is good or goodness, what are you describing about God's nature?
Well, it good is God's nature. That's
the word good has a specific definition, right? And if you're just going to make it an identity, then God's nature is just God's nature, right? We could just as easily replace the word good with the word red. God's nature is red, and we've removed the meaning of the word red and just effectively presented its meaning. God is God, or God's nature is God's nature, because we're not actually comparing it to anything. We're not describing anything about God's nature when we say God's nature is good, unless we have an external standard. When we say God's nature is good, does that mean that God's nature is one of honesty, kindness, mercy, and justness, yes. Or that?
Yes.
Well, those things would be good external to God, right? He behaves in this particular way.
They wouldn't be external to God. They're part of his character.
Well, okay, so then again, I ask, are things like mercy and justice and honesty good because they are part of God's nature, or is God's nature good because it has these attributes?
The morally good or bad is determined by God's nature. His will determines the right or wrong. He wills something because he is good. Something is right because God wills it. So,
but again, the word good doesn't have any meaning in this context. You're just saying that God wills things because he wills them, or because he's God, right? The word good isn't describing anything. We're just taking that word and really defining it as whatever God
no, good is that which reflects God's nature.
Yes, again, so whatever God is doing in the moment, that's good. So again, morality is arbitrary.
No, it's not arbitrary.
If God were to behave in a way that was malicious and detrimental to human well-being and imposed,
that's a contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction. It's not a contradiction because God's nature is the standard. So you can't say that things like justice and mercy and hope, or loving and all that stuff, those are good things because they're components of God's nature. Because anything else that, there's no reason why God's nature has to be the way that it is. It could have been any other way. And as a result of that, morality could have been any other way. God just happened to be the way that he is, and he happens to command that the things that he commands.
Right. And this is a fundamental misunderstanding of ontology. Ontology is a study of things that exist. The thing's existence, it's logically entailed by a theory. If you need X for the theory to work, you're ontologically committed to X. Okay, so we should be generally committed to as few ontologies as possible. So the reason that God is positive is because he can ontologically ground so many objective, abstract things that are in the world. So we're trying to find an explanation of these abstract entities that are objective. So that's where God is like a hypothesis. He's a theory. Well, from that is how we can ground the things that we call good in the nature of God. Logic, mathematics, all these things are ontologically grounded in the nature of God. So it's not an arbitrary standard because it flows from his nature. Like I said, it's morally bad.
Nature not arbitrary?
Do what?
Why isn't his nature arbitrary? Why did it have to be the way that it is?
Well, that's where you're going to get into modality and then the necessary being, and it's
no. It's very important that we delve into this, because you're saying that God's nature is the standard of goodness, right?
Right.
So anything that reflects the nature of God is therefore good, right? So if I were to ask you, is murder wrong? Obviously, you would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
However, God kills people in droves all the time, both in the Bible and in practice. If you believe any of the events that occurred in Scripture, then God does regularly terminate the life of another person without their consent. And so then your response to that would be that it's moral for God to perform some of these actions, but not
no. It's actually an incoherent statement, because God is the pinnacle of morality. He's not subject to a morality like we are. We're created beings. It's subject
so
to
then whatever he does is moral.
Do what?
Whatever he does is moral.
But no, he's not a moral, responsible being. We are, because
I'm saying that whatever he does, by definition, according to your worldview, is morally good, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's definitionally good, and only good by definition.
God can only do good because that's what reflects his nature. That's his characteristics. That's who God is.
Okay, but all you're saying is God does what God does, and then defining whatever God does as good.
No, I'm saying God does that which is according to his nature.
And you're just defining his nature as good. So I act as
no. It's good acts. Good acts are good acts because they are acts that reflect the nature of God and what God would do.
Is arbitrary. That's exactly
not arbitrary.
Are things good because they reflect?
No, it's literally not arbitrary, because we have a standard that it's grounded in.
But it's not a consistent standard, because God does things. Yes, no, God does things that you would not consider morally appropriate for people to do. So it's not a standard that we can live by.
No. I disagree with that.
Okay, so do you think that it would be morally permissible for me to go off and kill a bunch of people because they believe in another God?
No, well, you're assuming that God told them to do that.
No. God did that himself. He killed people.
No. You're assuming that the scripture is infallible or inerrant.
I'm not assuming that it's infallible. What I'm doing is I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt and assuming that some of these things, if your God does exist, actually occurred, right? That God.
No, I don't agree that they did. If they did,
so you don't agree that the Israelites massacred any tribes surrounding them, or that?
No, I think we're missing a lot of context to make good judgments on whether God actually.
The context is relevant here because, again, we're defining good based on God's nature. So whatever he does is good because it's in concordance with his nature. And apparently terminating the lives of people without their consent is in concordance with God's nature, but it's not something that we're permitted to do without broader context. See,
right.
Because he's omnipotent.
But he's the standard. So, I mean, when he's the creator of life, he can take life. It's not immoral for him to take life.
That's my point, Eddie, because now we have two different standards. We have one for God and one for people. How do we bridge that gap?
But you're making incoherent statements. There's not two different standards. God is the standard. God is the standard.
But it is perfectly in concordance with the nature of God to terminate the life of another human being
that he created.
Some sort of,
that he created.
Some sort of, it doesn't matter. You're
it does matter. That makes a huge difference.
It is concordant with the nature of God to terminate the life of another human being based on particular actions that they commit. For example, perhaps homosexuality or worshiping other gods, or rape, but it wouldn't be permissible for me to go off and do that.
Right. Absolutely.
So
because
then
you're not the creator. You're not the giver of life.
Different standard than God does.
Well, he is the standard. So yes, it's going to be
if he's the standard, then I should be able to do anything God does, and that would be perfectly moral.
No, that doesn't follow logically. You're going to have to.
If he himself is the standard, are you suggesting that God can do things that aren't in concordance with his own nature?
No, God has to do what his nature is. That's who God is.
How would it be then therefore immoral for me to do things in strict concordance with God's nature?
It's a categorical error. You're taking the morality of humankind and forcing it onto God, who is the one.
No, you're the one doing that. You're the one providing a singular standard, insisting that there is one standard, and then giving that to human beings. But it's not something that can actually be done because you are here protesting that I can't go out and kill people for the actions that the death penalty is given to in the Bible. I have to go through some sort of process for that. But God doesn't. He can just do it.
No, and that's a creator-created distinction. There's a distinction between the created and the creator.
Yes. So there's two different standards. There's a standard for the creation and there's a standard for the creator. There's not just one.
God is you're playing semantic word games is what you're doing. And you're showing you don't understand what ontology is. Okay.
We're talking about the definition of word. We're talking about what does it mean to be good? What do all actions have in common that are good? And for you, the answer to that question is all actions that are good are in concordance with the nature of God or the directives of God's will.
Right.
And that's fine. If you want to, pitch your flag in that word, I can pick some other arbitrary string of consonants and vowels to describe what I'm talking about.
But something's not arbitrary just because you deem it arbitrary. It's not arbitrary because we have a single standard for it.
Okay, we have a standard for a foot too. A foot is 12 inches. But there's no reason why it had to be 12 inches. We just decided that.
What makes it arbitrary?
That it wasn't in concordance with any sort of set system that can't change. It was willfully chosen amongst a multitude of options.
No, that's false. That's absolutely false. There were no other options. You're trying to put a standard outside of God, which this is the problem. This is the problem with ontology. People really don't understand ontology. Okay, God is what we consider the being that all of these abstract, objective things are grounded in. Okay,
He is objective.
Do what?
They're not objective because they're grounded in God. God is a non-quiescent mind.
They absolutely are objective.
So you're saying God can't change?
No, God can't change.
So he didn't change from not being the creator of the universe to being the creator of the universe.
Do what?
So God at some point created the universe, but he existed before the universe was created.
Right.
And when he created the universe, he changed. He transitioned from one state of affairs in which he wasn't the creator of the universe to a state of affairs in which he was the creator of the universe.
No. He didn't change. That's
so he didn't create the universe.
Forcing concepts that don't fit. That doesn't follow logically. He didn't change anything.
Seems like a change to me.
Well, right, according to your standards, absolutely. That's because, like I said, you don't understand what ontology is.
State of affairs into another.
I mean, you're just showing you don't understand what ontology is.
I mean, if that's what you insist, I mean, I don't think that you.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about I told you what the grounding in ontology is. It's God. It's His nature. That's where logic, math, morality, all these objective abstracts come
by
from,
definition, and nothing else.
Do what?
God could behave in a way that was sadistic and cruel and unjust.
No, it's incoherent.
No,
That's
it's
a contradiction.
Not. So
yes,
either it is the case, Eddie, that the characteristics of God's nature are themselves good by an outside standard, or it is arbitrarily the case that God's nature resembles those characteristics and makes them good.
You're trying to force the Euthyphro dilemma onto it, and it's not, because you're not understanding what I'm saying.
Even if you say God is good, you're not providing me any information about God. You're saying God is God. When you say God is good, I think in your head what that means is that God behaves in a way that's conducive to human well-being, and he wants to achieve, No.
That's not what I'm saying.
God doesn't want what's best for us.
That's you're leaping in logic to all kinds of statements. Nothing follows that God doesn't want what's best for us.
I never said that. I said that it could be the case that God was sadistic and cruel and unjust.
No, it's not. It's incoherent. It's a contradiction.
If that was his nature, that would all be good.
It's a contradiction. It goes against his nature.
No, it doesn't, because
yes, it absolutely does.
It's arbitrarily the case now that God's nature is honesty and justice and mercy.
That's not arbitrary.
Those things are all good because they're parts of God's nature. So if God's nature was otherwise, then
God's nature couldn't be otherwise. You're saying that
you don't have an argument for that. You have no reason to suggest that God's nature couldn't be otherwise. And as I already demonstrated,
absolutely.
As I already demonstrated, God's nature is one in which we cannot completely follow. We can't go around terminating the lives of other people, but God can.
What is ontology to you?
Just the nature of being, how we understand things to be.
That's not the full definition of ontology.
I'm not reading a dictionary definition. I'm just giving it to you at the top of my head.
Right. And this is what I was telling you. You keep conflating epistemology and ontology. Okay.
I'm not asking how we know anything. I'm asking.
Yeah. You're talking about the knowledge of good and what is good in this, and you're going into epistemology.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, T-Jump, what's up?
Hey, T-Jump, what's up, buddy?
I know you're gonna die. Let's hear it, buddy.
Yeah. So Ontology just means the study of what exists. So you can have lots of different kinds of ontologies. There's materialist ontology. There's an ontology of where God is the fundamental thing. So ontology is just the study of what exists. JT got that correct in his definition. But JT, could you give us a definition? What does arbitrary mean? Because you keep using that term. I'm not sure.
Just based on, like random whim or choice, and not in accordance with some system.
Well, random choice could be a system, but could you give a more specific definition? Like, what would make something arbitrary as opposed to not? Can you give an example to try and help explain why a morality based on God's whim is arbitrary?
Because a morality based on God's whim is subject to random change. That there's nothing that maintains it has to be the way that it is, and therefore it's not objective. It's subjective. It's subject to God.
Subjective is in the mind. This is in God's nature. No, this is in the nature of God.
Yes.
If it's dependent on God's mind, it would be subjective.
So arbitrary doesn't mean it just can't change. That's not what arbitrary means. Arbitrary means it's based on a specific kind of a system. So something can not change and still not be arbitrary. That's not necessarily what it means. But the problem here is that if you think a God is based, or morality is based on a God's mind, then you got the dilemma right, the Euthyphro dilemma. Is something good because God says it's good, or did God say it's good because it's good based off of an independent standard of what God said? If it's only good because God said it's good, then God could just say something else is good, right? So, but the reason it's arbitrary is not because God could potentially say something differently. He may or may not. The reason it's arbitrary is because it's only good because God said so. That's what makes it good. And so since what makes it good is the mind, his say so, that's what makes it subjective and arbitrary. And so
that's not the argument I'm making.
No, that's JT's argument. So I'm giving
okay, I'm sorry.
So JT's argument, the Euthyphro dilemma, is that morality is subjective because it's based on God's whims, which makes it arbitrary.
Even if we push that back and say that it's based on God's nature, there's no reason why God's nature has to be the way that it is. Right. Still, we're defining things as based on whether or not they can correlate.
That's why I'm saying it's an incomplete. That was an incomplete definition of what ontology is, because if you need X for a theory to work, you are ontologically committed to X. The thing's existence is logically entailed by a theory. So the theory is we have all of these abstract, objective facts in the world. So the reason that God is posited is an answer for all of these abstract moral entities that are in the world. That is the reason that God is even posited. You could call it something else if you wanted, but it's a way to explain all of these things that we have. So that is the study, that is the base, that is the foundation of what explains all of these things that we see in the world.
Well, that's your foundation. So most philosophers don't agree with that at all. Most philosophers are moral realists, so they believe in objective morality, but only about 15% believe in a God. So it's your foundation. But the problem JT is bringing up is if we grant your foundation, say, okay, there is a God and he's the basis of morality, is the only reason that there is a basis of morality is because God said so? Is that the only reason morality exists?
No, it's not. It's God's. The morally good or bad is determined by God's nature. His
what does that mean?
Determines the right or wrong. God wills something because he is good, and something is right because God wills.
Perfect. So that means it's not God's will. God doesn't choose anything. It's determined. It's the second horn. So the Euthyphro is either something is good because God says so, he wills it, or he wills it because it's good for some other reason other than his will.
He wills it because it's his nature.
Right. So that would be the other thing. So either it's his will or not his will. If it could be his nature.
That's not true. You're making the same false dilemma.
So P or not P is a true dilemma. So his will or not his will is a true dilemma.
Yeah, but you're taking his will and taking the idea of what his will is and forcing it into what the dilemma is. And that's not what I'm saying. It's his will is determined by his nature.
Okay, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
But determined by his nature.
That I'm cool with that. But that means his will and his nature are two different things. Right?
I wouldn't say they're not separable. No.
Okay, so his will and his nature are the same thing. That means his will creates his will.
That's not what I'm saying. It's his nature, and he wills it from his nature.
Okay, let me try to reframe this. Let's talk about this in another way. So morality, what's good and what's wrong or moral and immoral. Well, we use those words to describe. I mean, universally, whether you agree on what the standard is for those things, is what we should and should not do. Would you agree with that, Eddie?
I'm sorry. What was that again?
So when we're using words like moral and immoral or wrong and right to apply to particular behaviors, that is an adjective to describe at a very rudimentary level whether we should or should not do those things.
Yes.
Right. So it's the ought from the is problem. So outside of reward or punishment, okay, if God tells us to do something because that thing is in concordance with his nature, why should we do it?
Because it reflects his nature, which is good.
Okay, so we should do it because it's the right thing to do, is effectively what you just told me.
Because it reflects his nature.
Why should we do things that reflect God's nature?
Because God is God. I mean, it's good. God is good. That's his nature. That's what the standard of good is.
Okay, but we're removing the word good because good, just like you just did it, it's a tautology. Good is God. God is good. Why should we do what is good? How about that? Why should we do what is good?
Well, now you're into epistemology again.
No. It's not epistemology at all.
Yes, it is. Yes, how we can know and apply things and how we can apply things is epistemology.
Why should we do what is good according to your definition of good?
Because it reflects the nature of God, who is the ontological grounding, of morality.
Why should we do things that reflect the nature of God?
I can say it four more times.
You guys are going back into the same circle you were in before. I think.
I mean, the circle isn't a problem for me.
No. This is literally a fundamental misunderstanding of what ontology is. I mean,
not quite. The problem is that I don't think he's explaining it well enough to help you move on to the next stage in the argument. So, if something is only good because God says it's good, and God said it's good only because of his nature, and his nature makes him say what he says, that's called circular reasoning.
It's not circular reasoning.
That's exactly what it is.
No, it's not circular reasoning.
How is that not circular reasoning?
Well, put it in a syllogism.
A is B, because B is A.
But
God, something is good because God said so, and God said so because God is good.
It reflects his nature.
And God is good because
God's nature is good. God's nature is good. So he wills that we do things which are good because it reflects his nature. There's nothing circular about that. If that was circular, then almost every ontology there is circular.
Well, no, again, because remember, you said that God's will and his nature are the same thing, or they're inseparable, I think is what you said. And so they're not two different things, which means if God's willing something, then his nature and his will are the same thing, then it's determined by his will, not his nature.
I didn't say they're the same thing. I said they're inseparable. That's not the same. It's not saying that they're the same thing. God's nature is who God is.
Everyone's nature is who they are. So again, the question is why? Why is everyone's nature who they like? My nature is who I am.
Right.
So the question here is what makes something good? Is it what God wills, or is it his nature? It can't be both. It has to be one or the other.
He wills it according to his nature.
So it's not his will. It's his nature that makes something good, not his will. Okay, so his will makes no difference to what's good at all, does it?
What his will is his nature directed towards us.
Right. So his will doesn't make something good. His will is just telling us what's good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that's the second horn of the Euthyphro dilemma.
No, it's not.
It literally is.
Yes, it is. No, and another way to demonstrate the circularity here is that when I was asking you why should we do good things, you said good things are in concordance with God's nature. Why should we do things which are in concordance with God's nature? Because they're good. So, and around we go. It's meaningless, right?
No, it's not. It's not. And that's exactly how it's put by William Alston and Philip Quinn and Robert Adams, that are well-known ethicists. This is exactly. There's nothing.
I can bring up ethicists disagree with that.
Misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding of what ontology is. This
No,
is
that's
exactly
not.
what I was telling you on TikTok and how we got into this.
Well, no, it's not. So again, I'm actually familiar with most of the philosophers in this field. I've spoken to them, so I know the responses here. That is circular by the majority. The consensus, the consensus you referred to that Jesus exists. The consensus of philosophers say this is circular. It's literally a circular reasoning.
I've been doing this a long time and familiar with a lot of the philosophers myself, and never heard anything about it being circular. It's not circular. There's nothing.
Then you're not familiar with the field, because I am.
Yeah.
I am familiar with the field. And,
Yeah, it's not circular. I mean,
it is circular. This has been proven logically. If something is only good because it's God's nature and not His will, that is the second horn of the dilemma. So remember, the dilemma is either something is good because God says so, His will, or it's good for some other reason, not His will. It's His will or not His will. That's a true dilemma. A true dilemma is P or not P. And
right.
So if it's not His
what you're doing is you're separating will from what I said about His nature. If I took it your way, then you're absolutely right. It makes God impotent. But that's not what I'm saying.
Well, remember,
God wills it because He is good and it's His nature.
That's still the second horn. So the question here
no,
is
not. It is
not the same thing. They can still both be a part of God and not be the same thing. That's fine. So if they're not the same thing, then it's not good because God wills it. It's good because of His nature. That's fine. And they can both be a part of God, but they're not the same thing. And that is the second horn of the dilemma.
No, it's not.
How is it not?
Because the second horn of the dilemma is, does God will it because it's good, or is it good because God wills it? Right? It's a third horn, which is, or not a horn, but a third option, which is God wills it because it's His nature.
Right. So that is a horn. You're correct. In dilemmas, each section is called a horn. So, but that is not a third horn. This is the part that's been disproven in philosophy and why the vast majority of Phil Survey's paper. You can just read it specifically.
Yeah, it has not been disproven.
Yes, it has. Again, this.
No, it hasn't.
If I may, I was a guest, so I don't want to be a dog piler on Eddie here. I told him that before I joined the show. I don't want to. So if T-Jump, you want to take it over from here, I can just resign and watch.
No, that's all right. You can go ahead.
Well, I mean, like the conversation, I think you just said what I said in other words, and I just don't think that Eddie's either not getting it or we're just at an impasse and we're talking past each other. So it's someone here is just not being able to get through. So perhaps we could change the conversation. I've
actually got two theists coming in. So if you guys hang on, I've got two other Christians coming in. One who's
phenomenal.
One who's actually, and they both have two completely different ends of the spectrum as far as where they stand in theology. So it'll be interesting if you guys want to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And be mindful of K-Nevs because she'll come at you.
I'll turn my camera on in a second when I'm done smoking. So,
but I wanted to bring up this one point. So a true dichotomy is either P or not P. That's literally the definition of a true dichotomy in philosophy. So either His will or not His will is a true dichotomy. So if you're picking something other than His will, you're picking the second horn.
But you're misrepresenting it though. It's not just His will. It's because God is good. It's not.
That's irrelevant to
God's will.
Is it the question is it His will or something other than His will? That's the question.
Yeah,
so
it's not. It's not. It's a third option. It's because
that's
His nature.
That's the part I'm trying to explain to you. That's the part that the philosophers, why the consensus reject the theist.
There's no consensus rejecting it.
There is. I can literally give you the papers of the studies that have shown there is a consensus with the polls. This does exist.
Tom, I am with the highest level of philosophy.
No, you're not.
Too.
I am.
Yes, I absolutely am.
Paper is the largest study of philosophy that does not work. So again, P or not P is a true dilemma.
There's people that disagree. There's no consensus by far.
There is a consensus. No, just arguing that this is pointless. I literally have the papers to prove this.
Well,
the academic papers
is irrelevant because an idea is either wrong or right by its own merit. It doesn't matter who agrees with it.
No, the people who are consensus is actually valid evidence. It's not appeal to authority. But again, the point here
I agree that when you have credentialed academics in the field, yeah, it is. But I mean, it's not useful here because I guess Eddie's going to just feel ganged up on. So perhaps just debate.
No, I don't feel I don't feel ganged up on.
It's a response to his comments in the last one about the consensus in history. So it's about the last stream. So again,
but it's not a consensus in philosophy.
It is. I literally have the papers to prove it. Phil Survey's paper. I've just proven it. You can just check the paper. I've given you the source to check for yourself. This is the proof that I'm correct on this.
Where is it? Where's
Phil Survey's paper results? Google. That's all you need.
Tom, you could just type it into the chat there on the private chat, and then Eddie can go to it. Just click on it.
Yes, Phil Survey's paper results is literally all you need to type in. It's the largest survey of philosophers ever done. That's it. But again, so the point of the Euthyphro dilemma, either it's P or not P. That's a true dilemma. Either it's God's will or not God's will. So if you pick anything other than God's will, including his nature, you have picked the second horn. That is not a third dilemma. There's no third horn there.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
yes, there is. How is P?
That's what Robert Adams.
I don't care what they say. Show me how. Show me how P or not P is not a true dilemma.
You're making it. You're trying to force it. It's not
God's will or not God's will. P or not P.
It's according to God's will. It's not according to God's will.
So it's not God's will. That's not his will. That's not P. That's one of the options. The options are P or not P.
According to he wills it because of his nature. Okay. He is good.
So it's not his will. It's his nature. So it's
not based on his will.
It's so not P. That's the second horn. It's P or not P.
It isn't.
His will or not his will.
No, because that makes good a standard outside of God, and it's not. It's his nature. It's within God.
I never said outside of God. I said outside of God's
will. That's
what
the horn is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So again, listen to me again. God's will or not God's will. It doesn't say God or not God. It says God's will or not God's will.
That's the whole purpose of the argument is to show it's either arbitrary. It's either arbitrary or God's impotent. That's
no. That's the straw man that has been debunked. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So
come on, Tom.
What I just said to you was not a false dilemma, was it? God's will or not God's will? Correct. That's a true dilemma, right? God's will, not God's will. True dilemma. Do you get it? P or not P?
Yeah, and it's based on his nature.
Okay, so it's not his will. So it's your answer is it's not his will, which is the second
it's his nature
of the dilemma that I just presented you.
No, it's his nature. It's not. It's a third option. That's why it's a false dilemma.
Again, so either something is good because God wills it, or it's good for some other reason than God wills it. That's the dilemma I just presented to you.
And I told you that you can't separate his will from his nature, and it's because of his nature. It is a third option. You're making a false dilemma, and you're trying to force it into a false dilemma.
Yeah, I think I've explained this to the point where you just completely incoherent. So yeah, it's either P or not P, God's will or not God's will.
No, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm telling you that it's not that.
I know you're ignorant of basic philosophy here. Like it's either P or not P, God's will or not God's will.
I know you don't want to talk about ignorance of philosophy.
I just proved you
Welcome,
wrong.
Vindicated Soul.
Yeah. No.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
How's it going, buddy? I've seen you on TikTok. You responded to a few of my videos.
Sounds fine. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here. So this is just my perspective. I wanted to try and help. I see that Eddie is, he's the only Christian here so far. So I just wanted to give my perspective on this. I'm not saying I'm right. I just think that this makes the most sense. I don't know all of the philosophy terms. I don't know probably philosophy as well as you, Eddie, or you, T-Jump. I've seen some of your debates with one of my favorite apologists, Eric Hernandez. Or I think it was just one of them, but I've seen some of yours, and Eric Hernandez was the first one I came across. Here's just kind of the way that I've seen this. So I think what Eddie might be trying to say with God acting according to his nature, and it is good because he says it, or I mean.
Hey, David, could you try and fix your audio for me, my friend? You're coming in really choppy. See if you can, because I know you got a mic. See if you can plug your mic in, and I'll bring you back in. Okay.
I was trying to do the link on.
And I looked up the survey. You're wrong, Tom. It's not there.
Can you
The number of atheists or the number of theists
Let me
is
try to connect to my computer if I can.
Literally on the survey.
Oh, you're talking about theist versus atheist?
Yes. You could also go moral realism.
That's not even relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
So, and again, I proved you wrong. I proved you it's a true dilemma, and you don't understand
it's
it.
Not a true dilemma. You're trying to force it. I
P
told
or not P, will or not will. That's a true dilemma.
I told
P or
you.
not P, will or not will. Which part of that is not?
Not that. Just like in the last one that you were on, you said that, well, we can ground it in God's nature and we don't need God. Now, I mean, you're trying to question my credentials of philosophy, and you made a terrible statement like that. So I don't think you're in any position to tell me where I'm right and where I'm wrong.
Yeah. So if you can ground it without God's consciousness in his nature, then you don't need the consciousness.
No, you said we get just grounded in his nature. We don't need God. I mean, that is incoherent. Yes, you did. You go look at it. You did say it.
Yeah, because you didn't understand it again. I just explained it to you. You can ground it in his nature without his consciousness, which means you don't need the consciousness to ground objective morality. You don't.
Nobody ever said anything about consciousness.
That was the entire point of the conversation you're referencing.
No, it wasn't.
It literally was. I was there.
Yeah.
Hey everybody. Thanks for the great chat so far. Real quick, Atheist Cats dropped a super chat. We always want to make sure we shout that out. Does the God is needed for morality claim matter on which God you believe in? Is the Hindu gods not needed for morality?
Well, from most theist perspective, if they're just arguing for general kind of a God, it doesn't make a difference. It depends on the kind of argument you're making.
Yeah, it's just grounded in a necessary existing entity. The point of it is to try to get as few ontologies as possible to explain the facts in the world.
There is no ontologies. Ontologies means multiple different theories of what exists. You have one ontology. You can't have ontologies.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
You absolutely can.
Again, ontology is the study of what exists. You have an ontology of all of the things that you think exist. You can't have multiple ontologies of multiple.
You can't have multiple groundings. Yes, you absolutely can.
So a grounding isn't an ontology. An ontology is just the things that exist.
Oh,
ontology is a field of study in philosophy.
Me, man.
You Google it. This is pretty simple.
I don't have to Google anything.
You really do.
I mean, you're really showing your hand now.
You don't have ontologies.
Yeah, you're really showing your hand now.
Yeah, I definitely am, because I actually know philosophy.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, ontology is the.
I'm not going to get in a pizza contest, but yes, you can have more than one ontology.
No, you really can't. You have a.
Yes. Okay.
Again, I'll explain it to you again, because you're like a fourth grader.
I don't need you
yes,
to
you do.
anything.
Ontology is your theory of what exists. You have one theory of all the things that exist. You can't have like multiple theories and think they're both true at the same time. It's not how it works. Like,
oh
no,
gosh, man!
You want me to Google it for you and crush you again? Ontology.
I don't need you. Hey, y'all need to get rid of him, or y'all need to get rid of him or something, man.
Nature of being. Oh shoot, I was right. Damn.
This conversation is at an impasse. I think we should.
I'd
move on.
I never even wanted to talk to Tom. Y'all need to do something with
that's
him.
a little bit more fresh.
Well,
let's
he's literally talking in circles. He don't even know what he's talking about.
Oh my goodness! I'm pretty sure there's a psychological phenomenon. I think it starts with a D and a K. I don't want to be mean, but that's what I'm observing right now. Spartan, how's it going, buddy? How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing pretty good.
You have anything to offer on this subject, or do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like. Yeah. I see what Tom's saying about the Scientology thing, but I completely understand what Eddie's saying as far as like. I think what Eddie's trying to say, maybe the word is not perfectly right or whatever, but like the colloquial use of the word, as far as what Eddie's trying to get at, is like God and a universe are completely separate things. So those are two different ontologies that we would say exist. Is that kind of what you're trying to say?
You were breaking up. I didn't get that last part.
Okay, but just when you're trying to say multiple ontologies, that's just like multiple things that exist that are in no way the same. Correct?
No, not the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so God and a universe and a rock. Or I guess a rock would be part of a universe. I don't know, but Tom's basically saying like you can't have two ontologies. That'd be like saying you have two theories of chemistry or something. Like obviously chemistry is one thing. You can't have multiple chemistries.
Yeah,
So I think
saying
you're just
that
talking past each other there.
saying that there's two different kinds of things in the world, like materialism and dualism, that's all one ontology. You have one theory of how the world works. That's not multiple ontologies.
Yes, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about grounding.
I don't know, but that's kind of what,
he's talking about the necessary
think,
being. He says you can't have like the necessary being idea. That's not what ontology means, though. It has no relation.
No, I know that's modal logic. Absolutely, I know.
No, necessary and modal logic has to do with all necessary and possibilities. It's not about necessary beings. Modal logic doesn't have necessary beings in it.
The whole ontological argument is modal logic. Come on, Tom.
Yes, modal logic includes lots of things, not just the theistic kind. So there are many. So no, you don't need necessary beings in modal logic. It's just
that's not what I said. I never even said anything close to that.
Okay, Eddie, what do you think is the best argument for God's existence?
I don't think there is one best argument.
What's your favorite?
Probably fine tuning or the contingency.
Why don't we talk about those then? Just kind of move on a little bit because this is getting really aggressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you got somebody coming in who, I had no idea I was even going to talk to, and try to gang up and tell me I'm wrong when I'm reading, from experts. So I guess all those experts are wrong too. But
let's kind of move away from that because it's getting a little heated and it's just going around and around and around and around. So why don't we now we've got sort of a more even panel. Three Christians and two atheists that are active. Oz and K-Nevs are on here, but they're not really participating. So
just watching.
Yes. Is it a good show? Is it a good show so far?
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
We're all doing an excellent job. But we have to remember,
Hey, just remember, we all love each other. And at the end of the day, this is kind of a form of atheist WWE. So if somebody says you're wrong, just say, you know what? I can prove that I'm right. Here, take this information that can fact check. And bitch slap them through the internet
with a chair.
It's good. We're okay. We can keep it moving.
Okay.
And then you tell them it doesn't matter what your name is.
You grab that glass of whiskey, that atheist whiskey, and you say, "This is the atheist roundtable."
Cheers.
Or something like that. Anyway, T-Jump. T-Jump. Behave yourself, you naughty boy.
T-Jump, you need to work on your Jack Nicholson impression so you can, you just throw out you can't handle the truth.
Okay, so the fine tuning, we were going to talk about that, weren't we?
Yeah, or the contingency argument, whichever way Eddie wants to go, or Vindicated can join in, or Spartan Theology if he comes back.
Yeah.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got my life together here. Cool.
Much better.
I don't want to take
marvelous.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was trying to get on my phone because I was anyways, I don't want to take up too much time because you guys have a lot of people here. I just wanted to hopefully try and help simplify the conversation a little bit, maybe. Again, this is just my perspective of how I see things, and I know that some people are gonna have their skepticisms about my conclusion, which is fine, But with regards to Eddie and what he said about God's nature, this is kind of the way that it's been explained to me that makes the most amount of sense. It's not the same example, but it's the same principle. So I've always seen it now as, let's say you have the founder of a restaurant. He's like the head honcho. He's the founder. Now, within this framework, you have your main you have your main group of people, you have your employees, and you have your customers. My question is, I think that this fits with what Eddie was saying. I think the question that's essentially being asked is, can the boss steal from himself? And if he can't, then I guess he's not really the boss.
Embezzlement.
What does that mean?
Embezzlement. It's when somebody like the person who owns a company takes company funds for themselves and basically steals from their employers.
No, he's the boss.
Yeah, it still applies. Embezzlement is a crime.
Still illegal.
It's still illegal.
Not good.
So we're going to judge. Okay, but now we're talking about God's nature. He is the founder of the universe. So you think we have room to tell God what he can and can't do?
I'm not saying we do. Like, that's not my argument at all. I'm just saying that even if we go through this paradigm and accept that God is the standard of morality, it still seems to be the case that there's two different standards, because we can't do everything God is morally permitted to do for whatever reason.
Right. That's my point. With regards to the business. Okay, let's see. Let me use a different example then. Okay, can you come into the restaurant whenever you want as the employee without permission?
No.
Just going in the store.
No.
Okay. Can your boss come into the store at any time he wants, unlock the door, come inside, sit around, and then leave whenever he wants?
Sure, yes.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point, is that there's a different standard of what's acceptable for the owner, and there's a separate standard for what's acceptable for the employees.
You're calling the standard a you're saying that the standard has a standard. That's the issue. He is the standard, and you're saying that he has a standard. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's an incoherent statement.
Right. Yeah, that's my point. It's like he can come to the store whenever he wants. He's not limited to the rules that he establishes, but he, as the boss, can tell you, you are to come into work at this time, and you can't come inside before then. And when we close the store, you are not allowed to come into my store, because then you're breaking and entering. He can do that. But when he does it, he's not breaking any rule, because he's the boss. If he wants to go into his store at 1 o'clock in the morning when the store doesn't open for another 5 hours, he can do that. And there's nothing immoral. His bosshood is not called into question.
The employees inside of it?
I want to go with his analogy. So let's go with your analogy of the guy entering the store. So is it objectively wrong to enter the store at any hour?
No, that's the point. He can. Okay, that's my point. It's not wrong because he.
Is it
that's
objectively?
My point.
Is it objectively wrong to enter the store after hours?
That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Well,
if God says if God says you can come into the store at 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not about whether or not it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's about, do you have permission, because God wills it, for you to come in the store at 1 in the morning. If he doesn't give you permission, he's already set rules that say you can come in the store between these hours as my employee. And unless I give you permission otherwise, but you see that it's an amoral thing in and of itself. It's not again, really about.
Yes. So again, is it objectively immoral to enter the store? Yes or no?
Not aside from God, no. When we talk about objective, we're talking about the created. We're not talking about the creator. That's not even what objective means.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what objective means.
Objective means it doesn't depend on our opinions.
Would it be morally acceptable for the owner to burn the store down with the employees inside of it?
So you're trying to make objective something that God's subject to. And that's just a misunderstanding of what objective is in this context.
So wait. So God isn't subject to his own nature then?
That's not.
You just got done for half an hour.
I said
God can act outside.
You're misrepresenting me. You didn't hear me. You were talking when I did. Okay.
So
I said
I wasn't talking at all. I resigned from the conversation when Tom joined in.
The way he was just then. Hold on. You were just in. You were
Eddie. You made an argument for the last 45 minutes or so that God cannot act outside of his own nature.
Right. Absolutely.
So then he's subject to his nature. He is confined by his nature.
Yes.
That's the point. That's the point I was trying to make. Your boss isn't acting like your boss. He is your boss.
High five, JT.
High five. What do you?
When you go to work, your boss isn't acting like your boss.
You're literally making an incoherent statement by saying that God has the same moral obligations that we do. It makes no sense. There's no content there.
Okay, so let me see if I can explain it a little differently. Let's imagine that there is this planet where it's immoral to kill people on this planet, but if we're on this other planet, then it's not immoral. Like, clearly that's not objective, right? Because it's only wrong over there. It's not wrong over here. That makes it subjective or arbitrary. It's based on the location. So for something to be objectively wrong, it has to be wrong over there and wrong over here and wrong over here. But if anywhere it's not wrong to kill people, then it's not objectively wrong to kill people. It's subjectively wrong. It's only wrong in certain contexts.
Well, subjective means that it's in the mind. It's not subjective. It's objective to humans in this world, to God's creation.
subjective means it's only wrong in certain locations. That's how I'm using it here. Subjective can mean lots of different things. Subjective and objective isn't well defined specifically about the mind, unless you're talking about specifically the mind. So in this context, if it's only wrong to kill people on this planet and not wrong on this planet, then it's not objectively wrong to kill people. It's only subjectively wrong to that planet. It's subjective to that planet that it's wrong to kill people. So if we want to know if it's objectively wrong to kill people, we want to know at all places, at all times, for everyone, is it wrong to kill people? It's like if I asked you, go for it.
Okay, I actually was thinking about, I was literally thinking about this today. I think, so let me make sure that I understand this first real quick. Okay, T-Jump, you probably, well, Eddie or T-Jump, both of you, real quick, I want to make sure that I'm understanding these two positions correctly. I think I do, but I want to make sure. Can you give me a brief description real quick of moral relativism versus what moral objectivity is? Well, not versus, but just what are they? What are they? How do you understand both of those two terms individually?
I understand as in moral realism, there are objective moral facts in this world.
Okay. And then what is moral objectivism?
It means that it's wrong, even if you don't think it's wrong, it is still wrong.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, guys, real quick, we have another super chat. Atheist Cats, $5. If the morality matters based on which God you believe, morality is subjective. Am I correct?
No.
It would only be subjective if the morality changed depending on, like, if I believed in Zeus and morality was this, and then I believed in Hindu and morality was this, and the truth of the morality changed when I changed belief in gods, then it would be subjective. But it's not if you believe there's only one true God or one highest God or one highest morality, then you just be wrong in believing in the other one. So it can be yes and can be no. It depends on the situation.
So I think something you said, Tom, I think we might be getting somewhere. When you say objective, so do you think it's objective for all entities and all beings?
Yes. If I say something is objectively moral, that means for all entities and all beings.
Okay. Well, that's where the disconnect is.
Right.
All right, guys. I missed. Hold on. I missed the super chat that Pasta put up a minute ago, which is my responsibility. But Sean Alexandre put $50 on it. He said, "It's a wild night, and you guys are awesome. You all deserve a drink after this." Can I hear it? Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, Sean's my buddy. He knows me from somewhere else. So
Is that a Star Trek outfit? That is a Star Trek outfit.
looks like it.
Can I respond to T-Jump real quick?
Sure, go for it.
May you respond to T-Jump?
Okay, so let me see if I can. Okay, let's say that the standard of God is 10. I think I'm trying to answer your question.
Number?
Yeah, just it's representative of, the number 10. I'm going to use numbers. I'm trying to respond specifically to your point about. I'm trying to answer your question about what was. Can you say what your question was again about entering the store? Do you remember what it was?
Is it objectively wrong to enter the store?
Okay, yes. I think that this comes down to a math equation, so to speak, right? 10 equals 10. God is God. If God wants to come in the store at 1 o'clock, he can. If he wants to come in at 2, he can. He can come in the store whenever he wants. Now, if it requires his permission to come in the store, then that means that the equation somehow needs to equal 10. Now, I don't think that it necessarily matters. Now, I'm taking I guess you could say a mixture of moral objectivism and moral relativism. So what you're saying is that the equation always needs to equal 5 plus 5 to equal 10. But if I say, well, hold on, what's 1 plus 9? Is it the same? Is it relative objective to the standard still? Because because that's what I'm saying. It's not about.
I'm not following.
Okay,
so let me see if I can ask a different way. If I ask, does the sun objectively exist? And your answer is yes. But if I ask, does the sun exist for Oz? And you say no. I mean, obviously there's a contradiction there. If the sun objectively exists, that means for everyone, independent of any opinion, including God. So it can't exist for God, or exist for us, but not exist for God, or it can't exist for God, but not exist for us, because then it wouldn't objectively exist. It would be a subjective, arbitrary thing in somebody's mind. The same thing applies to morality. If we want to know, is it objectively wrong to drown babies? We're asking the same thing of, does the sun objectively exist? It can't be objectively wrong for one person, but not objectively wrong for another person, just like the sun can't objectively exist for one person, but not objectively exist for another person.
That's a misunderstanding of how objective is used in this argument, though. That's not how objective is used.
No, that's how we're using it. When we talk about objectivity, we're not. So we are specifically saying your morality is subjective because this is how we're using objective.
No. Objective in this argument just means it's not up to your opinion. It means that it's true regardless if you agree with it or not. That's all it means.
Right. And we're using objective as independent of all opinions, including God's. So,
then that's, I mean,
remember my analogy.
Not how it's ever been used in this argument. So you're bringing your own standard to this argument when it's never been done that way. You just admitted to misrepresenting the argument.
No, remember, so this is our position here. We're saying that by our definition of objective, it means true, independent of any mind's opinion.
In circles, because that's why we're talking in circles, because you brought your own opinion and not the one that's being used in the argument.
No, again, this is our argument. So moral objectivism is the view that the right or wrong doesn't depend on anyone who thinks
or any entity.
Anything, period, including the God. Period. So it's anything.
That's
so
that was on my tongue, and I thank you for saying that because I was trying to find the words. And
I would like to bow out, if I may, soon. I just wanted to give my answer. I think that it really comes down at the end of the day to you either believe God exists or you believe he doesn't. The question I was going to ask you, and it may seem irrelevant, is the sun a sentient being that we know of?
No.
Okay. Here's actually this is what I was thinking of recently. I would say it is an issue of state of existence versus nature of existence, right? A rock can't choose to not be a rock. It is a rock. And once you start dealing with sentient beings, it is going to come down to you either accept this thing is what it is, or what it says it is, or what it doesn't. Because then at this point, what you kind of have is this weird paradox where if we fast forward 2,000 years and someone tries to say Hitler didn't exist because he said he was good, but he acted evil. Well, yes, sentient beings have the choice to choose. And so you can't discredit the nature of a person's existence, or I'm sorry, you can't discredit the state of someone's existence by pointing to the nature of their existence in the same way that you could point to a rock and say a grass rock.
Oh yeah,
that's totally a contradiction. So this
isn't an argument against the existence of God. This is arguing that even if we grant God exists, then that morality is subjective to God. It's not objective. So we're just granting that God exists for this argument.
Well, see, you're just using your own terms in this because these are not the traditional terms used in this argument. I mean, you're bringing your own terms to it, enforcing your own terms. That's why we're going in circles.
Hey, Eddie. Sorry, I need to actually go. So I'm just gonna wrap up with this for Tom, and then I'll let you guys keep going if that's okay. So that's what I'm saying. I think it just comes down to this: if you acknowledge that what we call God exists, and that God is the God of the Bible, I'm just saying it would be in everyone's best interest to probably acknowledge that he exists and do what he asks of you to do. Because in the same way that you're not going to win an argument with your boss, you're probably going to get fired. Is the same way that if God exists and he is a free agent, he can essentially, we could say, do whatever he wants. He doesn't owe anyone an explanation. I would say if you trust that he's good, right? Because that was literally the problem with the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve didn't trust God and they wanted to be like God. That was what the whole tree of knowledge of good and evil was about. Once they recognized that they could rebel against God, they wanted to create their own standard of good and of right and wrong. And that's what we are now seeing throughout all history. People are trying to want to be like God, trying to make up their own standard, trying to question God, trying to argue with God. So I'm just saying, this is just my opinion. This isn't fear mongering. This isn't me, trying to talk down anyone. I think it just, like with what Eddie's basically saying, it comes down to a choice. You either believe that the one true God exists and that God is whichever one, And you can choose to either break
I understand
law
your argument, but again, this isn't about whether God exists. The fact that God's morality can't be objective isn't why I think he doesn't exist. That's a different argument. Even if God exists, his morality can't be objective. So even if I chose to abide by it, it still wouldn't be objective. I would just be choosing to abide by it.
So if I thought that your existence was contradictory in nature, then you just don't exist then, because I've deemed that you don't exist.
Remember, this is not an argument about God's existence. I'm granting God's existence for the sake of the argument. This is not
right. That's what I'm saying. If you expect me to trust that you're saying that something that you're saying is true, and the only way that I can find out is by trusting you and then seeing if how you say lines up, my subjective thought about you and what I think about you is going to be completely irrelevant to whether or not you even exist in the first place. Now, I can choose to trust you, or I can choose to find reasons to disagree with what you're saying. Now, that's what I'm saying. If we are assuming a maximally greatest being a good God, you can either choose to find reasons of why you think he's evil or why you think he's good. You can choose to find reasons to say, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the simplified argument of, I think to me, it sounds like when people try to argue against the nature of God, it's like saying, well, Hitler didn't exist because he said he was good, but he acted bad. Like when you call into question the nature of a sentient being's existence, that thing still exists whether or not you agree with how it operates.
I agree. I've agreed with you like 10 times in a row. No, I agree. I've agreed with you like 10 times in a row. This isn't an argument against God's existence. I'm not saying he can't exist because he drowned millions of babies. That's perfectly coherent. It would only be a contradiction if he was objectively moral and drowned babies. That would definitely be a contradiction that shows he can't exist. But he could definitely exist and have drowned babies. That's definitely possible. So I'm not saying he can't exist here. That's not the argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would make just as much sense as saying Hitler didn't exist because he said he was good but acted bad. It's just a complaint against
Hitler just lied. So if I can grant God lied, that's perfectly reasonable. I can say God exists and lied.
But that's the thing. The being doesn't cease to exist because it lied. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree. I've agreed with you like 10 times on that. This is not about God's existence.
We're not talking about what's ostensibly the case. We're talking about what actually is the case. So it cannot simultaneously be the case in all actuality that God is objectively moral and then drowns babies. I mean, as long as you're using
unless you think it's objectively moral to drown babies,
definition of what it means to be moral or immoral.
We can drown babies now.
Well, it seems to me that you guys aren't familiar with the actual argument because objectivity's never been used like that in this argument ever.
Okay, Eddie,
how does add something real quick?
Vindicated real quick before he goes because he's about to leave.
Sure.
So Vindicated,
I gotta go.
Kind of gave us this sort of consequentialist idea of why we should obey God. But outside of punishment or reward, is there any reason why I should do what God wants me to do?
Not if you don't want to.
So the odd from the is, what I'm asking you for is like when we're talking about morality and what's right and wrong, what we're really asking is what we should and shouldn't do. So beyond consequence, why should I do what God wants me to do?
I mean, I think it's that simple, honestly. I mean, if you just look at nature, everything has a consequence. It comes down to consequences, and you're gonna every action has a consequence. So
I agree with that. My point here, Vindicated, is that if God's, if obeying God in general is a consequentialist ideal, then my moral framework and his moral framework are directly equal. He just has more power to enforce it than I do. So I have a moral system wherein I behave in such a way to actualize circumstances that I prefer. And in your context there, what you offered me is that if you prefer to go to heaven, do what God tells you to do. Now, of course, you also give God license to send me to hell, even if I do what God wants me to do. I could follow it all to a T, and he could still be like, I don't like your haircut. Hell. So I have no incentive.
For the record, I don't agree with Vindicated. So I believe
that's fine. I'm just giving my perspective here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm deontological. It's we're
Christians. It's almost Sunday. It's almost Sunday, literally. So what we're gonna do? Look, we're gonna say goodbye to Vindicated Soul. He's come on. He's a sweet guy. Hey, Dave. I love you, brother.
Round of applause.
I love it too. Hey, I appreciate everyone, even UK. I really would have liked to speak with you more too. I actually appreciate that you're just listening because it probably would have just made things complicated. You can take my spot if you want. I would like to. I'm going to keep watching for a little bit, so I would like to hear what you have to say.
Hey, whoa, Dave, whoa, her husband watches this, dog. Hold up, dog. Hey, Dave. This ain't Christian Mingle, dog. Hey, come on, now back it up.
Well, she was going to say something, and I didn't. I want her to have the a little bit of room to talk.
Yeah, take it to the DMs, Dave. Take it to the DMs.
I'm just watching and learning and chiming in when I need to, but thank you.
Yeah, man.
No problem. Same here. That's what I'm.
No, brother. Hey, thanks for coming on. We're about to go back to the calls in a moment, and that's where K-Nev's all. T-Jump, you're welcome to hang around. Hey, JT, if you want to take some calls with Eddie.
Yeah,
sure. Can I ask T-Jump a question before we end this topic?
I'd love to.
It actually will be pretty quick.
Hell yeah. Hey, thank you, David, man.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, get the hell off the stream.
I just want to say one thing about this subjective thing before we move on. I have ADD and I'll forget, so I'm asking now. You can play music if you want, but
so anyway, guys.
So when I see the issue, you're saying like for something to be objective, it has to be true no matter what. So like if it's objectively wrong to kill babies, and God kills babies, there's a contradiction there, correct?
Yeah, God would just be objectively wrong.
Yeah, but or that, yeah. But couldn't we just say it's objectively wrong for humans to kill babies, and therefore it solves the entire problem?
Well, no, that would be like me saying the sun objectively exists for me, but not for you.
No. Because so then is it objectively wrong for a lion to kill a baby?
Well, no, so that would again be it can't
Why?
be objectively wrong. It can't be objectively wrong for some, but not for all. I think it's always objectively wrong to kill a baby. Like the idea is to kill a baby.
So is it objectively wrong for a rock to kill a baby?
Yeah, so the idea would be to kill a baby like for fun because you chose to. It usually has some intentionality behind it. Like in my moral system, I would say, yeah, it's always wrong for anything to die without consent. But in general, the idea is that it's wrong for someone to intentionally kill a baby. Lions don't have the intentionality, so they can't be immoral. But since God does have the intentionality, it'd be wrong for a human being or a conscious agent to intentionally kill a baby.
So why couldn't we just say God's like intentionality is different than the way we understand it? So it's just why can't we just say it's wrong for humans to kill a baby or it's wrong for humans to murder? But when it comes to God, we can't like put these same standards on God. That just doesn't make any sense to me. God is so different from us that it just makes no sense to put a standard like that.
No, that's the problem. Is it's a categorical error, and I've told them that 10 times. But they think
it's like saying it's wrong for the wind to be blue.
Yeah, I mean, it's wrong for us to kill. It's objectively wrong for us to kill, but God is the standard for that objectivity. And you're trying to take our obligations and put it onto God. And it's just a categorical error.
But if it was wrong for us to kill, I mean, there's lots of moments when God condoned humans killing each other.
Well, yeah, that's a whole
not doing
different
the actual
argument.
action, but he commanded wars to take place, like in Judges 19. Humans were killing each other, so that example doesn't exactly fit either.
Well, that's
a whole different argument about
if you take scripture literal like that, then yeah, I guess.
So to answer Ethan's question, if you wanted to say God was like inferior intellectually like a lion or a rock, I mean, yeah, that could work, but it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
the
that's
other
what
way.
I was getting at. You figured it out.
Yep.
I think God is like a rock.
If God's conscious, right, and he's all knowing and he's all good, right, and all of the all things, right, then why would he be different than us? We have consciousness, we have empathy.
He's different from
we
us.
know right from wrong. Does God not know right from wrong?
It's the creation distinction. He is the one who creates. He can take life. It's murder for us is not murder.
So I can take my daughter's life because I created her.
You didn't create.
You didn't create. Yeah.
I did.
Okay,
I literally created her in my body.
Well,
she grew. My body created her.
That's not the same creation.
Mike, I really apologize, but this is
that's not the same kind of creating.
God is so different from us. It's just it makes no sense to make.
No, it's actually illogical to put. It is literally illogical and incoherent to say that God is a moral creature with the same moral obligations we have. I mean, it makes no sense to do that. He is the standard. We are the ones who have to follow his standard. We can't use his.
You don't permit us to do that, Eddie, because it is perfectly in concordance with God's nature to terminate the lives of other human beings. But we're not allowed to do that outside of like a very, very slight mitigating circumstances, like self-defense.
What's the problem with that?
God murders people.
Standards.
God is immoral.
So if I say why,
you just right there,
Eddie,
Tom,
listen,
you just highlighted. Hold on, Tom just highlighted.
Don't listen to respond. Just listen to understand what I'm trying to say. If I ask you why is it wrong for me to kill Joe because he believes in Krishna and not God, which is a death-worthy crime in the Bible, according to the edicts or the laws of God.
No, I disagree with that. But go ahead.
Okay, well, God can kill people, as He wants to. And you don't think that we can do that. It's moral for thee, but not for me, effectively. But if I say, why is it wrong for me to kill another human being? You can't answer because it's, in conflict with God's nature, because it's not. There's another standard there that
it is. Yes. No, he has his will is what issued the commands for us. So because
it's not okay for me to kill people because God told me not to.
Right.
Why did God tell me not to kill people?
Don't know.
Then it is just will. It is just pure arbitrary choice.
No. I'm sorry, misunderstood. Why did God ask you? Told you not?
Why does God instruct us not to kill people? Why is that the sixth commandment? Thou shalt not kill.
Because it's taken the life of another human, and he's
that wrong?
The creator.
Why is that wrong? Why is it wrong to take the life of another human being?
Because God commanded that it was wrong.
Okay, so things are wrong because God commands them. Fantastic. Yeah. We're now on the other horn of the dilemma.
No, because the commands come from his nature. I mean, you guys are literally
come from his nature because God kills people all the time.
Yeah,
it is not in conflict with God's nature to kill another human being. So if he tells me don't kill another human being, he is telling me not to do that for a reason other than it is in conflict with his nature.
So what JT is saying here is that if it's wrong because it's against God's nature, so we can't kill people. It's bad to kill people because it does not reflect God's nature.
No, people. That's a misunderstanding of what I said. No. That's not what I said.
Please explain. Please do.
His will and commands are because of his nature. Okay. He commands because he is good. For us, he commanded that if we take a life, because it's wrong to take a life, we are not the ones who ordained life or created life. It's not the same standard that he's held to because he's the creator.
Whole point, Eddie. We have a different standard. We do not do things. We don't behave because our behaviors reflect God's nature. That isn't a good behavior for us because we're not allowed to wipe out the entire population.
Wait a minute. I never said that. I never said that.
Eddie, I'm not saying that you're saying the exact opposite of that.
Let's slow down.
God can do things we are not allowed to do.
So if that which reflects his nature.
Okay. So it's good to kill people then.
No.
So
God kills people all the time.
Slow down for it. Slow down. So it's wrong to kill because it doesn't reflect God's nature. God's nature is the goodness, and since killing does not reflect God's nature, killing is bad for us.
It is wrong for us to kill.
Right. Because it's God's nature. It's against God's nature.
It's against God's nature his commands and wills flow from his nature. He gives us commands. Yes. He says that it's wrong.
Okay, so God's nature is God's nature, and because God has this nature, he tells us not to kill. And so it's bad for us to kill because God told us to, and he told us to because it's his nature to not kill.
No, that's not his nature.
Okay, so God has a nature, and he commands us to do stuff because of his nature. He says his nature is perfectly good, and because he's perfectly good, he tells us to do these certain things.
Yes,
like not to kill.
Right.
And the reason it's wrong to not kill is because God said so, and the reason God said so was because his nature tells us what? Like, what is it about his nature that makes it wrong not to kill for us?
It's wrong to not. It's murder for us not to kill because, it's God reflects what is good. His nature reflects what is good. His wills flow from that. We get our commands from God. Okay. God creates life. So it's not murder for God to take a life. However, we don't create life. We are the created. It is wrong for us to take a life.
So if we're trying to be like God, we're trying to act like God's nature, and God is perfectly fine to kill people. He's got that power. But if we're trying to act like his nature, then we should reflect that. We should also kill because we're trying to be like God.
No, that's not at all. We're not on God's level. We're not God. We don't we're
just trying to reflect God's nature. We're trying to act like God. We're trying to act like God's nature because God's nature.
No. We act how God commands us to act.
So not like
there's a commenter in here. I just wanted to ask real quick. They said at T-Jump, is it not what Eddie's special? Okay, they're asking if Eddie is special pleading or that God has a get out of jail free card.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
No, he's the standard. It's not oh my God. Dude.
Eddie, why can't we kill people?
Because God said not to.
Okay, why did God say not to?
Because he is the moral lawgiver.
Okay, so it's immorally wrong to kill people.
For us to, yes.
So there's a different standard for us and God.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
But what is your point?
That's subjective.
If we have a different standard, then we aren't behaving in accordance with God's nature. God's nature is not the thing which decides what's morally good or wrong for us.
Do you understand what the creator-creation distinction is?
I am fully aware of the creator-creation distinction. That's the point I am making.
Different standards, the creator and the creation.
God is good because his nature is good, and therefore he commands us to do what is in accordance with his nature. If it's good for God to kill people, there is two distinct standards because it's not good for us to kill people, but it's
what's
good
the
for God
difference
to kill
there?
people.
What's the difference?
Yes, there's a difference there, Eddie.
What's the difference there? What's the difference between us and him?
I don't know, and neither do you, apparently.
It means that what we're doing isn't trying to live in accordance with God's nature. That's not why it's wrong. It's not because of God's nature, because God can kill people.
What's the difference?
So because God's nature, he can kill people. And so, but it's wrong for us because of God's nature.
Why can God kill people?
Because he's the creator.
Because he created them, right?
So if something is wrong because it isn't in accordance with God's nature, but God kills people, then killing people is in accordance with God's nature. So that can't be why it's wrong.
Evil is not in accordance with God's nature.
Okay, cool. So there's this evil thing. So where does this evil thing come in? Because it's not a part of God's nature, is it?
No, it's the opposite of God's nature.
Okay, so it's not wrong because it's against God's nature. That's not why killing is wrong. Because he can kill, so that's a part of his nature. He has the right to kill. So if
he can kill.
So it's not.
He create. If I create something, and I set the standards and rules and parameters for how this is created, I have the right to destroy that. We don't have that right because we haven't created anything. We're part of the creation. We are under his law. He is the lawgiver.
Yeah, Eddie, that's the point. There are two separate standards. We are not behaving in accordance with the nature of God. So what is it? So what is our standard of good?
You keep saying the same thing. I've corrected you on several times.
So no. You're absolutely right, Eddie. There's two standards. You got the creator and the created. So if we're trying to be moral, I want to be a moral person. I have what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to act like God because God is the moral standard. He's the creator. So I can't act like him because he has the right to kill. So if I'm copying his nature, then I have the right to kill.
No. You are to act in concordance with God's commands.
So it's not his nature that goodness comes from. It's his commands where they come from.
No.
Why would God command us not to kill?
Because we didn't create life. We're not God.
Okay, so why is it wrong to kill things we don't create?
Because he says it is.
But he's not saying that because it's against his nature. He's just saying that to say that. And therefore it's arbitrary.
We don't have the right to do it because
I don't disagree.
Where did that law come from?
We're trying to ask, why is that the case?
Because
we've already established it's the case. Why is it the case?
Did he command it? Because is that
Oz is fixing to go into the Abraham story right now. Look at him; he's dying to read it. Go on, Oz.
Because God commanded.
So did God command that it's wrong for the created to kill the created? Is that somewhere in his nature to not kill? Or did he just make that up?
But what do you? I don't.
Where did he get this idea that it's wrong to kill? Where did God get the idea?
You are asking me why subjects to the law cannot do things that the one who gives the law can do.
No, I'm asking where did he get the law? So is the law a part of his nature? So it's wrong for God to kill. God doesn't kill, so it's a part of his nature. Or did God make it up outside of his nature? So God can kill as much as he wants, but then he just made up this law, created don't kill because I said so.
No, don't kill because it's his command.
So it's not his nature. So the do not kill is not a part of his nature. It's a part of his commands.
For us to not kill, yes.
So it's a part of his commands. That's the first horn of the dilemma.
But where does the commands come from, Tom?
Well, if it comes from his nature.
Not his nature.
It comes from his will and his nature.
But Eddie, you're denying that now because it is concordant with God's nature to kill.
God damn it, Tom.
Is it concordant with God's nature to kill? Yes or no?
Do you have any other calls?
So, explain, what do you mean is it in accordance with his nature to kill?
Does God kill?
Can
yes,
God
he can
kill?
take life, yes.
Okay, and you already said that God cannot do anything that is in contradiction to his nature. So therefore killing, terminating life is within the nature of God.
Yes.
Because so anything that is concordant with the nature of God is good.
You see, you're making that jump again. You missed the whole damn slide from his will to command.
Man, I got him thinking, and he just like, nope.
Hey,
can't
he's
do
got
it.
a copyright on jump. Don't say jump too many times. Eddie,
let's change the subject.
Got a copyright on that jump.
Argument altogether. This is not getting anywhere.
Hey, hold on.
I think.
Hey, Kay, can you get this one?
Yeah, Eddie. What would God, what?
I was like, when you're done, let's just go to calls because this is not getting anywhere, and I'm about to destroy my lungs because I'm going to go open it up the back of cigarettes.
Thank you, JT. Thanks for being on, man.
Understand the original argument. You're trying to impose your own terms.
Well, I'm not imposing anything. I'm just asking questions.
Hold on, guys. Kay, we got a super chat. Get it.
Yeah. Brother John asks Eddie, what would God have to do or fail to do for you to stop worshiping him? Just a subject.
Not exist. I don't know.
Teleport Tom Jump to Mars.
No, I still like Tom. Tom's a good guy.
Liar.
No, he asks good questions.
No, I can agree with you. Tom's a jackass, man. He texts me all kinds of hate.
He's about to get heated.
Yeah.
Just because I get passionate doesn't mean I don't like anybody.
Kay is directing the stream now. She says Pasta should throw up the number so people can call in.
Now, what we should have done in the beginning, like we should always do, is define terms.
That's true.
Well, then that's for next time.
Okay. Nabs, you want? We got another super chat up.
Yeah, I think we're really talking past each other.
Anyone else picturing a snake eating their own tail with all of this?
Yes, the Ouroboros.
Big shout out to Pastor John in the chat.
Yeah, why don't we take some callers? Let's see if anybody else has something to offer here. Or just change the subject altogether.
I'm going to have to bring me some backup next time.
This is literally the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. We are going nowhere, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to chop this one out because Ian, I feel like on every single episode, kind of like Chico when he's here, always drops a super chat. Ian Davenport, another $5 super chat. Thank you very, very much for your support. And for all the theists that are here, just know that Oz is attending 2 different church services in the morning. So I just may get saved, but probably not. But you can pray. You can definitely pray.
What was your pictures on Facebook were from? The big chapel?
No, that was outside of yeah, that's a long story. Never
mind. All right, folks. So look, 706-236-7608. Call in. That's Tom's personal number. And if you want to get these guys on the line, chat about anything you like. What do you want to chat about? Does Tom actually play the guitar? Does JT really dislike Eddie? They go back and forth on TikTok a lot.
I love Eddie. What are you talking about?
We just met. I love JT. He's cool.
Hey, why doesn't Oz follow Eddie on TikTok? Why does Eddie
what's up with that, Oz?
And make TikToks? We don't know. We don't know what goes on in Eddie's bathroom.
I play the guitar, by the way.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Okay.
I can play 2 songs.
Yeah.
They're real simple.
That's fantastic.
I don't know if that counts.
It does count, absolutely.
Whose audio keeps sounding in the background like they're dialing on the AOL?
I think it might be Tom. It looks like Tom. Tom looks shifty.
All right, I'll mute myself and see if it's me.
But for those who don't know, if you go to T Jump's YouTube page, he does have my fans only page listed there. You can go and help me pay my bills. So
ow, ow.
I'm gonna go spam his page. Crash the server.
OnlyFans?
Fans only, whatever. Tom, you created it. Jesus.
Freaking boomer. God damn.
You created it for me. I don't know nothing about that shit. You just asked me for nudes and wanted to put it on a website.
Man, you guys have some odd people that follow you. That's to put it nicely.
Oh, here
we have a caller.
You're live
Welcome
with
to the Lions Den.
Eddie and JT and K-Nevs and Oz.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Pasta.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, it's Geg Burrito.
Hey, what's up, Geg? This is Matt, right?
Yeah, I was in the comments. Yeah, I was. I think I can explain this whole God's nature thing and all this about, like, from a theist standpoint.
So hoping we could
about killing and death and all that stuff.
Well, I tell you what. Hold on, Matt. Let me just introduce you to the crew here. So Matt is a theist. He's been on the show with us before, and he's chatted with Oz and J Mike. And Matt has an interesting position with Christianity. So, Matt, you want to chat with Tom Jump and the crew? Come on.
Sure. Yep.
So you explain away. Let's go.
Okay, so when it comes to the, am I on now? Can I go now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You've been on the entire time.
Oh, okay. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
My blood pressure.
So when it comes to the theist viewpoint, okay, well, we kind of get confused because, like, we think like a death as sort of like a punishment or like the end. You know what I mean? Life on earth. But most Christians are trying to be set free from this life. And how would they do that? Well, that happens after they die, correct?
So then it would be a good thing for me to go around and kill as many Christians as I could? I'd be doing them a favor?
No, not in that sense. So basically, we are to love each other. And if you love, you do not have the desire to kill. Right? Why would you want to harm somebody
What
else?
if I love you so much that I want to set you free from
That's
this life,
not love.
which you think is a bad place to live in?
It is objectively wrong.
Well, that I think that would be wrong because, you know, I mean, it's not in our hands. Life itself is not in our own hands. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, guys, real quick.
We definitely take enough of it.
Hey, guys, real quick. I just want two super chats real quick. $4.99 from Nate. And we had somebody call in and call T Jump Tom Dump. So we'll get back to that later. And then Jim Bitten says that the only way that I'm getting saved is the preacher says that there's a barbecue and someone has to get saved. That might it's going to be a false salvation, but I might pretend.
So here, I got a question.
Barbecue?
Oh, go ahead.
Give me a question.
No, I didn't know you were still on the line. I was going to ask them a question.
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it, Eddie. What was your question?
Oh, well, I know your answer, Tom. JT, how do you ground morality? Are you a moral realist?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you ground morality?
Particular action or behavior is immoral or wrong if it somehow diminishes human well-being, happiness, or health, or promotes unnecessary suffering or harm, or it does both. And then immoral actions would be the antithesis of that. And I referenced the Treatise on Morality video by Theoretical Bullshit, aka Scott Clifton. He does a wonderful job of explaining that.
I like Scott Clifton. For an actor, he's a pretty good philosopher. But
Phenomenal.
Yeah, so what determines what is good or bad or on your view?
Well, there's an objective reality to what hurts people or promotes unnecessary suffering or harm or diminishes their happiness and health.
What is that?
We're beings that receive and experience stimuli, and there are some stimuli that cause us to suffer and some that don't, and that's an objective. Those things are objective.
So what if somebody doesn't have those stimuli?
Well, everybody does by virtue of being a person. If you can't feel pain, you can still experience psychological, torment or suffering. But then, I mean, at best, right now, you're just waging the P-zombie problem.
So then somebody in a coma, what about them? They don't, no psychological, no pain, nothing.
You guys, real quick, we do have a caller on here. So Matt, before we completely take over, is there anything else that you wanted to ask or insert there?
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, from a theist perspective, we believe in eternal life. Now, some theologies say, well, there's only two places you go to. You got, eternal life is in heaven or conscious torment for eternity. So death is not in the theist perspective is not the end. So arguing over
did he cut out? What happened?
Themselves, and the Bible also says anyone who has died has been set free from sin. Now, when we read First Peter, it talks about the people who died in the flood and how Jesus rescued those people. So, in a sense, in my theology, like a death, in a sense, is not actually when we attribute that to God, it's not exactly punishment. It's more mercy. I have the belief that when we go to heaven, it's not because of anything we did; it's because of what Jesus has already done. So, I have a kind of more of a universalist outlook on it. But
sure,
as
that's
far as
like
when Christians argue about what's that?
Yeah, sure. That's a really common view under Christianity. Under my worldview, I'd say if you kill somebody, even if they have an afterlife, if they didn't consent to it, it's immoral. So if God drowned people and destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, or killed the son of Jetabtath, or whatever his name is, the daughter, all of those are immoral. Like, it doesn't matter if they have an afterlife.
Why is their life valuable?
Because
they're alive. So life is valuable because they are alive. That's literally
why is that valuable?
Because they're alive. That's literally what it means. But I want to answer his question.
There's a stronger axiom.
I can see your perspective, but would it be more immoral to create somebody if it's not their choice either?
No, it would only be immoral if you created them and put them in a world full of suffering without their consent. That would definitely be immoral.
What if they cause their own suffering?
What do you mean if they cause their own suffering? Like if they chose to suffer,
if they cause their own suffering. Like I make choices. Like to me, God doesn't control people. He's not a dictator. We are free people.
Pharaoh would disagree
he doesn't
with that.
Control us. You see what I'm saying? What's that?
Yeah. So, but what I would say is, I'd say that God would be moral if He gave us the option to make our own world and of however we wanted. That would be fine. But He didn't. He forced us into this world. I didn't choose to be here. I didn't choose to be constrained by physics, to have physical limitations, to be hurt by objects that are thrown at me. Those are all things that God did that I had no choice in. So I don't get to choose my own suffering. These are things forced on me without my consent.
And people who throw stuff at you are causing your suffering. God gave us dominion over the earth, basically.
Yeah, tornadoes. People didn't throw a tornado. People don't throw
it is up to us.
May 22nd, 2011. I'll never forget that day.
Tornadoes, hurricanes, volcanoes. I didn't choose any of those. Those are things forced on me by God. I didn't create these things. I didn't choose these things. I didn't volunteer to be a part of these things. If God forced me to be a part of this world with tornado and suffering and evil, I didn't choose this, then God's immoral. God put me into a moral trap of evil that I didn't choose to be a part of, which means He's a moral monster.
Your perspective of it is that He's evil. My perspective is things happen, but death is never the end. You see what I'm saying? Like but basically, when we die,
it doesn't matter if death is the end or not.
The end of us.
It doesn't matter if it's at the end or not. It doesn't matter if it's the end or not. Any type of thing that happens after life is independent of whether or not what God forcing us to be here is moral or immoral. Like if I give you a paper cut, that's still immoral, even if your finger is going to do things later. Doesn't matter how many things later you do. The fact that I gave you a paper cut is still immoral. Or if I broke your finger, it doesn't matter if your finger is going to heal and have lots of things after that. It's still immoral for me to break your finger.
Your idea of God is being immoral for just putting us here in the first place.
Well, let me respond to that real quick. So you said your name's Matt, right?
That's basically what he said.
Well,
no.
just
I said
just to be clear here,
just to clarify, my point is that he's immoral for placing us here in a world full of suffering we didn't get to choose. So just creating us is perfectly
And then
fine.
setting us free from that would make him also immoral too, right?
No, if I can snap my fingers and go to my own universe, that would be the moral thing.
If you can do that, yeah, but
him drowning
without
us.
bone cancer in children and
So yeah, not him drowning us and killing us against our consent is immoral, but if him giving us the choice and like saying, here, I'll teleport you to another world if you choose to, and then doing it, that would be fine. It's the drowning us against our consent that is the immoral thing. It's just the consent part that matters here.
But in the first place, him creating a universe that's less than perfect is in itself immoral because he's omnipotent. He's not compelled by anything. He's not beholden to anything. And as a result of that, none of the conditions that we experience are necessary. And so none of the suffering that we experience is necessary. It did
You're
not
going to need to
have
support
be
that.
that way.
Those are assertions. You need to support that.
Could God not have done otherwise? Yes or no, Eddie? Could God have done otherwise? Could he have created a different universe than this one?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
well,
if
the answer is no, he's not omnipotent. If the answer
if
is
you're
yes,
talking about metaphysically, possibly, yes, but
okay. So God could have done otherwise. Fantastic. Moving on. We have this situation in which we are not in control of any of the conditions or circumstances in which we live. You don't decide where you're born. You don't decide where you're born. You don't decide whom you're born to. Most of the things that you will experience in life are completely out of your own control. But all of those conditions and circumstances were directly and deliberately engineered by God with a purposeful intent and an absolute infallible foreknowledge of the consequences. So there's nothing that you experience that God didn't deliberately put in your path.
Well, you're assuming foreknowledge.
God's not omniscient? Okay.
Yeah, he's omniscient. No, well, there's actually open theists. No, I mean, there's a lot of theists that'll disagree with you. You're assuming one position.
Yeah, I happen to be one of those.
Yeah, open theism is the position that God knows all of the possibilities, but doesn't know which possibility we're going to take. But all of those possibilities include suffering and pain, so that doesn't
epistemic ambivalence.
Yeah,
and even if we grant that, you still have the issue of all the possibilities that we could incur are in direct relation to all of the conditions and circumstances that God created. So God could have created a situation in which none of us experience any suffering at all, right?
Well,
he could have created that path, but he chose not to.
You can't make that assertion. How are you going to make that assertion?
Because God is omnipotent.
Okay, let me ask.
If he's not omnipotent, he's not omniscient, then I wouldn't consider him God. He's just some agent with.
You don't get to just make your own definitions and say he's got to follow these standards or he's not God. That's not saying
okay.
I'm not saying he has to follow these standards. I'm saying that he has the capacity to do otherwise, but he chooses not to. He chooses to create and instantiate the world in which children get raped and which hurricanes occur and slaughter people in droves.
So what you're saying is that God could make a world where there's no suffering and free will.
Yes.
Yes. It's called heaven.
Yeah. No, that's not what heaven is.
So we don't have free will in heaven?
That's not what heaven is.
Do we have free will in heaven?
It's easier than that. We don't need to go to heaven. We can make it here if we had enough technology. So all you need is to add one rule and you can have all of it.
Okay.
It's very, very easy. This one rule, it says, it's physically impossible for any one person to force another person to do something they don't consent to. You add that one rule, you get rid of involuntary suffering. You can still have suffering if people choose it, but only if they choose it. That's a morally superior world. And it's easy. We can prove God can do it because we can do it. If we have the technology to make the matrix, we can upload our minds and we can make this world. So if God can't do it, then we're more powerful than God is. And he's not on the
and I'll just add something really just like mind blowing right now. We're discussing a God of a book with talking snakes and donkeys and
that's metaphor. That's allegory.
So I just want to make sure we keep this like we're all keeping level heads.
Let me ask this question.
Sure.
Let me ask a question. So God gave the rules. Who's enforcing those rules? Is God enforcing those rules, or are we trying to enforce those rules on other people?
Which rules?
Whatever you guys say God's rules are.
I'm not sure what you mean exactly. So the idea is that God could have created a world that's better than this one, but he didn't. And in those rules, like the laws of physics, he made the laws of physics.
There's no way you're going to make that assertion. There's just,
again, I just proved it. We can do it.
No, because you make a computer simulation, that's not even close. I mean,
we can do it. If we can do it, then God could have done it.
Okay.
We can do it outside of a simulation too.
Let me ask you this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that
Let me
means
ask you this.
we can
So
do
if
it.
God is all powerful
Yeah.
and
go ahead.
somebody is suffering, he should be able to bring somebody out of that suffering, right?
Sure, definitely.
Okay, because that was me, like about 2.5 years ago.
Cool.
And I'm no longer suffering. However, I'm not a legalistic conservative Christian that says you got to do this, you got to do that, or you're going to hell. I believe it was for freedom that Christ set us free. So I can actually do whatever I want to do. I don't have to worry about heaven or hell, because I am saved because of what Jesus did. Now, however, everything I do has a consequence.
Okay, so again, that doesn't.
And I don't
really-
have the desire to do harm to other people, because and the prior self, yes, I did.
Okay, but that doesn't address
made
my
me feel
argument. So
better.
my argument is God could have made a better world that is more moral. He didn't, therefore he's not perfectly moral. So here's a better world that I just demonstrated. Just add this one rule that it's physically impossible to force any person to do something they don't consent to. And if God added that one rule to the laws of physics, this world would be infinitely more moral. And he didn't. So he's immoral.
But most people don't know God, so how do they come to that better world that you speak of?
God placed us all here with and without knowing him. So whether or not we know him doesn't make a difference. God could have just added this to the laws of physics, regardless of whether or not we know him.
What did you just say? He could have added the law of physics?
Yeah, he just add this to the laws of physics. He just adds to the universe. He just adds this law that it's physically impossible to force any person to do something another person doesn't consent to. And he could have added that to the laws of physics before the Big Bang, 14 billion years ago. And then it doesn't matter what humans know or do, the world would be objectively infinitely better than it is now.
If there were no law of physics, you're saying the world would be a better place.
No, I'm saying he's adding a law of physics. He added a new law of physics, and this new law of physics says it's impossible for one person to force another person to do something they don't consent to. So adding a new law of physics.
So basically what you're saying is that it's impossible to force somebody to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah, like if he made that a law in
That
the
is the
universe.
law you're talking about?
Yes, if he added that in, that would make this universe a better universe.
It's people forcing other people to do what they don't want to do.
Right, and I'm saying if God made that impossible because of a law of physics, that would be a better universe.
But that also wouldn't be freedom.
Yes, it would. I still have all the desires. I have all the choices I can make. I can still build houses. I can still do everything I want to in the universe that doesn't involve hurting other people.
You have the desire for freedom. Other people are free to have the desire to want to control people.
Yes, they can all have the desire in this world I've
If
described.
they didn't have that desire to want to control people, then that's not freedom for them. That's not freedom at all.
No. So they still have the desire. They can still desire whatever they want. It's just they can't physically do it.
But that would be a law then.
Law of physics, yes, like gravity. That's the point.
Which is not freedom. It's not freedom to make your own choices.
No, we can still make our own choices.
A lot of suffering comes from our choices and the consequence to our choices.
So I can't choose to fly. Does that mean I have no free will?
You can't choose to fly?
Yeah, I can't choose like, oh, I don't like gravity right now.
I thought that had to do with gravity.
Yes, this is like I'm saying, we're going to add this in as a law of physics like gravity. So you can't choose to physically force someone to do something they don't consent to, just like you can't choose to fly. You still have free will. Like free will doesn't mean you're free to do anything. It just means you have the free to intentionality to do things. Like people are paraplegic. They literally can't physically do anything, but they still have free will. Free will is about your feelings, not about your physical limitations. So if we add in a physical limitation like gravity that stops you from being able to force other people to do things they don't consent to, that would again just be exactly like gravity, then that would not in any way restrict our free will. We'd still have free will and we'd still have suffering. It would just be optional.
Well, that would be forcing other people to act upon their desires.
No, that would be the opposite of that.
No, that wouldn't be the opposite. You would, if you have the desire to control somebody, but you physically can't, you're forcing somebody to obey a law.
Right, and that's perfectly fine. So the law is that you can't force other people to do what you want them to do. You can't force other people to do something they don't consent to do. It's not that you can't force yourself to do something you don't consent to do. That's not the law. It's not that you get to do anything you want. That's not the law. The law is you cannot force other people.
That's not even a law God has for himself.
Pause. Color. Matt, question for you from our chat.
Yeah, what's up?
One of the people. One of our viewers has a question. Says, "Is it perfect to attribute the color good fortune to God, but kids with cancer just have to die?"
Well, I mean, when you think of eternity, okay, that's a never ending. A very small amount of suffering, and then however long eternity is, I don't think there's an end. Is a very small amount. But when we think about cancer, where does cancer come from? God didn't put cancer all over the place. You know what I mean? Sometimes things we eat, the atmosphere, everything else, like
rays from the sun.
We didn't have like what's that?
Rays from the sun. Most
it
cancer
does
is
come from the
caused
sun.
by
I'll say
rays
that.
from the sun.
We could say it comes from the sun.
there.
What if God and cancer came from the same place?
God and cancer came from the same place?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, let's go down the pathway of where cancer came from. Let's try and find out where that came from.
Yeah.
Who created cancer?
Who created cancer?
Yeah.
Well, it's found in genetics a lot, and
who created genetics?
I don't know. I don't know who created. I say I don't have all the answers. You tell me who created cancer.
Whoever created the universe.
Well, you don't believe in a creator, so who created cancer?
Right. So I think it's just a natural process of reality. I don't think anybody created it. But if God created it, then God created
natural
cancer.
process, right?
Yes. If there's no
I
creator.
also believe in the supernatural as well. So
right. So you think God created cancer?
No, you said it was a natural process.
So I don't think God created cancer.
Well, who created the natural process? I mean, for the sake of the argument,
who did the
saying?
So okay, I believe, and like I said, I'm not like a scientist. I don't believe that we had a lot of these things in the beginning of when mankind emerged from, from your perspective, wherever they emerged from. I believe there was a lot of, genetics and everything like that were involved in all these things, and things we ate, things we do with our lives, have to do with a lot of what physically we deal with.
So cancer is a genetic mutation in DNA that causes a cell to reproduce indefinitely. It doesn't stop reproducing. And that's been with humanity since the dawn of humanity. All forms of DNA have it. It's been since the origin of life. Everything in life has cancer. So I don't know what you mean.
And it's always been that way.
Yes. Because it's just mutation.
And how do you know that?
Because it's a mutation. Cancer is a mutation in the cell that causes it to reproduce without stopping. So any cell that has mutations will have cancer.
Can you prove that?
Yes, it's literally been shown that cancer is taking the process of when cells divide, and there's a limiter on that process, which is a part of a cell. And if that limiter gets damaged, then you get cancer cells because the cell keeps reproducing. So we know it's these specific genes that get damaged that causes cancer. And so if there's genetic mutation, which is the origin of all life, then you get cancer because all it has to do is damage this particular kind of area in the gene structure.
Okay, I can see that. Who damages those cells?
That's cancer is caused by light rays from the sun. Somebody's beeping.
Yeah, somebody's audio is a bit jacked up.
I think it's...
Is it me?
Is that Thumper?
Probably. Yeah, I think it was Kay.
Ooh, it was Kay. I'm glad it wasn't me. I just crashed a minute ago, so I'm trying to I'm very continuous about this because my computer's would.
That was the supernatural aurora around me coming back.
Guess who's back?
Eddie's back again. Eddie's back.
Hey.
Guess who's back?
Eddie's probably in the bathroom making a TikTok.
No, Eddie was down as many Bud Lights as he could.
Hey, Matt, just before you go, I got to ask you something, right? A moment ago, you said that you said God chose you or something, right? It was like, did I hear right?
God saved him from suffering.
I think we're all chosen.
I think he said God saved him from suffering.
Oh no, he pulled me out of the suffering that I was.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do you think he chose you and then doesn't choose, other people, for example?
I don't think he chose me. I don't think that it was like.
So he pulled you out, but he didn't choose you.
I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain what happened to me. I was sitting in my living room, and all of a sudden I got this. Now I've had this before when I was 18, but I actually went into a church for this to happen. But I was in my living room, and basically, I don't know. I became aware of his presence, and I've been aware of it ever since. So in my theology, I don't believe there's anybody, including the atheists, who lacks the presence of God. I just believe we lack the awareness of the presence of God. Like when people say you have to have God, or you have to come to this something, we all have it. We just need to become aware of it.
Okay. Well, hey, Matt, I appreciate your call, man. And thank you for your information.
Yes, I hope I didn't make myself look like a fool, but
no.
This T-jump guy's pretty slick. So.
No. No, my favorite thing is when you said,
"No, I enjoy
scientist.
You get people angry a lot, so that's kind of. I like to annoy people as well. So, more conservative Christians than atheists, because
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Matt.
Atheists
We appreciate
seem to be
it.
unfazed by these kind of things.
Hey, Matt, everybody. Gag Burrito. Thanks for calling in, man.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Yeah,
man.
no problem. Thank
Anyway,
you.
you have a good day, man. Take it easy, bud.
I would like to respond to a comment in the thread there that I just read, and it irked me. So Pastor Cheapo asked the question: is it immoral to physically cheat on your husband or wife? Example: if a spouse cheats, it better with a younger, hotter person, then it would better their life. So therefore, is it immoral? It wouldn't better their life. Hedonistic pleasure and actual genuine happiness are completely different, and they tend to run in direct conflict with one another. So it would crush his spouse, so it would impose unnecessary suffering, harm, and detriment to her well-being. On top of that, it would destroy his relationship. He'd probably lose friendships. It would make him a social pariah. It could probably damage the social status of the person he cheats with. That person's going to get, they're going to be called a whore, a slut, all kinds of, nasty, not kind names. So cheating on another person when you're in a monogamous relationship is immoral because it does all of the things that all immoral actions have in common. They diminish or detriment human well-being, happiness, and health. They promote unnecessary suffering and harm, and they do both.
So why are those valuable?
Value is inherently subjective. I mean, by the very definition of what value is, you have to have someone there to value something. There's nothing that has intrinsic value.
It's immoral, and we're morally realists, so it's objectively immoral. But I would like to clarify,
objectively immoral though,
because it goes against the objective moral standard.
Because we have pain receptors.
That's circular, Tom.
Psychology.
Oh,
now we're
getting
got that argument,
stage
Eddie.
of this argument. But so you can choose arbitrarily a standard, right? And the standard itself will be subjective and arbitrary, but what is derived from that standard from then on will be objective. So if the standard for morality, or what an immoral action is that it diminishes human well-being, happiness, or health, and promotes human well-being, and or diminishes unnecessary suffering.
How do you go from objective to subjective?
Because the same thing with the ruler I explained to you earlier. It's an arbitrary distinction that 12 inches is a foot.
So I can just decide not to do it, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, you're going to suffer consequences for it, but
I totally disagree. Like I'm a moral realist. I think there is objective morality. I think morality is a higher order emergent property, like fitness is. So
or health. Yeah.
So I definitely think morality is objective. It's a real thing. Like the sun is objective. It's a property of the universe. It really exists. It's really objective. And so you can't subjectively choose it, and you are objectively wrong if you go against it.
Well, so there's sort of a concept.
Wait, real quick, just to clarify about because Eddie asked a question about, okay, you're bringing up subjective and objective, right? So the sun objectively exists. Is it subjective that we call it the sun? Like,
Sure.
sun.
I guess we could make up another name for it. I mean, it's arbitrary.
that the sphere that gives heat to our planet objectively exists. Is it subjectively called the sun? Is that the distinction you were making, or am I off base?
No. I mean, typically you don't hear in moral realism, you don't hear going from a larger objective thing down to a subjective thing. I just like.
I mean, the other way, you don't go from subjective to objective.
Or yeah. I mean, you usually don't have like, one is an umbrella and the other is, something else. You're a subjectivist or a moral realist and you believe in objective morality. So I was kind of, perplexed by how we were going from one to the other.
So Tom, just to respond to you real quick. So it's objectively the case that we have behaviors and actions which have negative or positive impacts on human well-being, health, happiness, and so on. It is not objectively the case that morality is the right word to describe those things. We arbitrarily choose a string of consonants and vowels, in this case the word morality, to describe that concept. Eddie uses that word to describe whatever is in accordance with the edicts and will of God. So, and that's fine. Like to refer to Scott Clifton, I can pick some other arbitrary string of consonants and vowels to describe what I'm talking about.
I totally understand, but I want to clarify. Yeah. I think morality is a real thing that exists, like gravity is a real thing that exists. So I think
there's a real physical phenomenon that exists. We use the word gravity to refer to that.
Right, and I think morality.
You and I use the word morality to refer to this real phenomenon of human behaviors and how they affect each other. Now, if Eddie again wants to stick his flag in that word morality, that's not necessarily consequential to me. Again, I can just flag out Eddie.
Back about the cheating example.
Yeah.
Nate Dogg in the comments said, and someone agree or disagree, right? But we can go from here. The subjectivity comes from the other person's consent level.
Oh yeah, I think that's perfectly right.
Shout out Nate Dogg.
I wanted to actually respond to that in the same way. So having extramarital affairs isn't actually immoral if both parties in the marriage agree. So if you are in a polyamorous relationship and you agreed to have this kind of a relationship, it's not immoral to have extramarital affairs. It's perfectly fine if you and your partner both agree to it. It's only immoral if
the other person.
Right. And the other person too. Yes. That's
but then we wouldn't refer to it as cheating then, right?
Correct.
It's not because you're not in a social contract with another person to be in a monogamous relationship and have sexual relationships only with that person.
Exactly.
Right. And when you are in that that environment, by acting outside of it, you hurt the other person who has consented to this social contract between you and them, and you are causing them suffering. You are diminishing their psychological and mental health, and you're just overall diminishing their well-being. So yeah, it would always be wrong to cheat on another person if you agree to their relationship.
That's what Nate was saying. It's about the consent level. As long as the parties, both of the people in the marriage consent to it, it's not immoral. It's only immoral if you engaged in this relationship, you got married under the pretense of saying I will not cheat with you, and you broke that consensual relationship, then it would be immoral because you broke that level of consent involved in that relationship.
Yeah, and I also want to add that Pastor Cheapo asking this question is a little bit cliche, a pastor asking a question about infidelity. But to try and drive this point home a little bit further, for whatever reason, and I see this problem only in theists, is that they conflate hedonistic pleasure with actual happiness. Okay. Like we were talking about with, health, there are things that are objectively not healthy for you, like eating battery acid, for example. Things that have an objective 100%. Negative impact on your well-being, your overall health, and your happiness. Okay. Seeking hedonistic pleasure almost always detriments your health and well-being. Okay. It's hedonistic pleasure to inject heroin into your veins. Okay. Ultimately, that's bad for your health, but if they shoot up heroin, is that morally wrong? I would say that it is. I would say that consuming detrimental drugs like that is morally wrong. Like I would, even to condemn myself, smoking cigarettes, I think that's, morally wrong.
That's crazy. As a Christian, I don't think it's morally wrong unless it's like seriously harming them. I mean, there's a lot of people who use drugs their whole life and don't die because of the drugs. But I would like to flesh out something a little more. Okay.
Yeah, let Pastor Pipo call in. He can talk to me. Hey, go ahead,
Eddie. Eddie, before you go, is it okay? Do you want to speak to Pastor John? Because look, I look at it like this: it's objective that Pastor John will eventually be an atheist, and it's subjective that he's currently practicing as a pastor.
And that whole dead bodies thing. Remember that dead bodies thing?
Yeah, I will never forget that. I have nightmares about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All love, though, cheapo. All love.
Hey, Eddie, do you want to speak with Pastor John and teach him some things, or?
He might teach me some things, but yeah, I'll talk to him.
All right. Well, you go ahead with your point, and I'll get Pastor John on the line.
Is that the same person as Pastor Cheapo?
Same dude, man.
Yes.
Same dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, I guess he wants to argue with me, but that's okay. I'll put up the dukes. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how morality can be this objective feature of the world, like Tom and I are talking about. It is a fact, that some things are wrong. And JT was talking about how it's completely arbitrary and then subjective. And I'm kind of confused at how we're getting all these terms into your idea of morality.
Okay, so Eddie, it is objectively the case that there are behaviors or actions. Hold on a second, Pastor John. We can hear you. It is objectively the case that there are actions or behaviors which negatively impact well-being, happiness, and health.
JT, what is the God in your model? That's the question he's asking. In order to explain.
I get it.
No.
It is not objectively the case that we describe those things as wrong. It just seems to be the most pragmatic word to use for that. Again, I'm not going to squabble with you over verbal real estate. When I use the words moral and immoral, what I am describing are behaviors and how they impact the happiness, well-being, and health of other people.
Well,
that is what I'm
I
describing.
can steelman that. I think JT's position is that well-being is itself intrinsically valuable, like you think God is intrinsically valuable.
But why?
Because I'm a human being.
Why do you think God is intrinsically valuable?
No. I'm asking him why.
No, I think he's going to give you the same answer because it's intrinsically valuable.
I'm not going to burden shift. I want to know why.
What do you mean by valuable?
Life is genuinely preferable to death. If you don't agree with that, you would kill yourself and remove yourself from the decision-making process. So we are left only with interacting with people. Hold on. We are left only with interacting with each other. We don't know why we value life. We just do. We want to live. We have a biological predisposition to want to live. And so we all agree to act in a way that promotes living and well-being.
No, that we don't agree to that, but yeah, okay. You don't know why.
I guess kill yourself and be done with it. And I don't agree with that.
So it just is. It just is valuable.
Okay, so
it's also known as begging the question.
Real quick.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is because it just is. That's
go ahead, K-Nebs.
That's begging the
question. It's like walking into a WWE ring right now.
That's right.
It sounds like on this phone call.
Thank you, PJ.
I'm not sure who's Triple H, who's Randy Orton, who's Batista, who's Edge.
I'm the Undertaker.
I don't know.
Well, let's get Kane up, and then we'll get you on, PJ.
Yeah,
Kay, you were going to say something.
I was. Thank you. So to the value point, we have pain receptors in our bodies. We have a certain psychology. We have serotonin, dopamine. We also have, centers in our brain that store trauma and affect our brains differently, right? Those are naturalistic processes, right? So we don't need, for me, we don't need a God to know that pain and suffering is the antithesis to life and joy. Those feelings of pleasure, the things that are good, react in our brain, make those chemicals go crazy, and it feels good, and we know that's good because that's what the chemical reaction is. So pain and suffering, when we inflict that on ourselves or onto others, it hurts. So that's a natural thing that happens. So that's my answer. Hi, Pastor John.
I'm not denying that.
Be too high level of an observation there, Kay.
Valuable. Why does he think life is intrinsically valuable?
Well, we can get back to that, but we have a caller on the line, so let's let him talk to us because I think he wants to talk to both of us.
Okay.
Oh no, I want to talk to you, JT.
Oh. So okay, I guess I'm the center of attention.
I'll go ahead and see myself.
Yeah, so you're the one who answered my question. So I'm Pastor Cheapo. Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
So,
how's it going?
I am completely unsatisfied with your answer because here's what you did.
Sounds like a personal problem.
You decided that you were going to. Well, I'm going to make it your own personal problem. So here's what you did. You decided that you were going to go ahead and just make up the motivation of the man. You started saying, oh, well, this doesn't equal happiness. What if the man's happy? You just kind of started filling in the blanks and finishing the story without actually addressing the question.
No, okay, so cheating on your spouse, right? If you are in a social contract with another person to be in a monogamous relationship with them, cheating on them is objectively detrimental to their psychology, their well-being, and their health. Okay, that is going to destroy their emotional self-confidence and so on and so forth. So that is an action that promotes unnecessary suffering and harm and diminishes health, well-being, and happiness. Therefore, it is immoral.
Okay, so now let's look at it on the other side. So we've looked at it from the position of the person who has been cheated on. Now let's look at it from the position of the person who has done the cheating.
Why does that matter?
Also look at it matters so much.
It matters big.
Pastor,
it matters so much. You cannot just look at one side of the argument.
You
cannot just look at one side of the argument.
When we're talking about what we ought not do, we're talking about things based on how they impact other people. Okay, if you're in a vacuum and you can't affect anybody else, nothing that you do could ever be moral.
Okay, so you agree that there are 3 people at play within this scenario, but you're only talking about the morality of one.
I am talking about how your actions
3
impact another person.
Let's look at that then. Let's look at it within.
John,
let's look at it within the scope.
I think he's talking about sufficient, not necessary. So if you harm one person in the relationship, it's immoral, regardless of whether or not it's beneficial for the other 2. I think that's his point.
Okay, so here's the thing. That's not what he said. You're
exactly
kind of helping him. Oh, it's not.
That's literally exactly what I said.
So here's the thing. Let's say within a scenario, people cheat all the time. People commit adultery. So we have a vow that has been broken, which we would call, okay, now you have lied to your spouse. Lying is immoral. Okay, we can agree on that. Hurting your spouse is immoral. You've cheated on them. You've broken them. You've caused all sort of psychological problems that they're going to have to work through. All of this. But then
why is that not enough for you not to cheat on your
answer to me, wait, you are going to have to let me finish a sentence, friend.
I just want to know, Pastor, why is that not enough of a consequence for you not to cheat on your spouse?
Because you're not looking at the other side of it. That's why.
What's the other side?
I would never seek pleasure at the expense of another person. Maybe that's the difference between me and you.
What is the other side?
That's great. That's great. That is subjective, and that is to you. That's great. Now listen, here's the point. So then you went and assumed, okay, well, this does not equal happiness, right? Physical action does not equal happiness.
I said hedonistic pleasure doesn't equal happiness.
What you have done then is you have filled in the blanks and you just started finishing the story. You cannot assume someone's motivation and that in them cheating, maybe their marriage wasn't that good. Maybe it wasn't even that good of a relationship.
Then why not get a divorce?
Cheated. No. Let me finish my sentence, son. So,
I mean, you call me son again, I'll just ignore you. I'm not going to be condescended.
Well, let him finish.
I'm not. Let me finish. You keep cutting me off before I can even finish the statement.
Is partially
Let me
right.
finish.
So I think he's right that you can't assume that cheating wouldn't make someone happy. It could very well make someone happy. But the fact that it does hurt a wife in the relationship makes it immoral, even if it makes the guy happy.
But then there's a third party at play. And it's the person that you are cheating with. So let's say you are hurting one person, okay? You're hurting your spouse. You are making yourself happy in what you're doing because you cannot assume the motivation of the person and say just because they had a one-night fling that they are not happy. And then there's a third person at play. Let's say it's someone who you now are making them happy. They've been in a miserable situation. Maybe they've been abused by their boyfriend, and now you have made them feel love. See, now we are talking about all 3 players in the same game. And that is what you have to do when having this conversation. You do not get to just take the person being cheated on. Yep, it's immoral because
ethics is not a democracy.
Detrimental to the well-being.
So
John, detrimental to the well-being of this one.
So this is a really sinister idea on your part, and this is what terrifies me when it comes to Christian fundamentalists.
No.
Because you don't have the capacity.
No. We're talking morality.
Separate. No. Yes, I'm aware of that. I told you.
That has nothing
a particular action or behavior is immoral if it diminishes human well-being or happiness, promotes unnecessary suffering or harm, or it does both. Cheating on your spouse does both. Therefore, it's immoral. Why is that so difficult to understand?
So I think,
but it's also moral though because you are making yourself happy. You are bettering yourself.
John, John, just to jump in here.
Wait,
So
and then you're also bettering the life of another.
Let me steelman his position just like I steelman yours. So JT is saying that if it does this in any case, in any one case, then it becomes immoral. Even if it's good for two people, it makes them happy. If it hurts one person, it's still immoral. So even if killing the Jews made Hitler and Goebbels happy, it still is immoral because it was hurting the Jew. So the minimum case here is sufficient that if it hurts one person,
is it both a moral? Yeah, is it both a moral action and an immoral action? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think he would say it's immoral. So it has to bring happiness to everyone without.
So the entire scenario is immoral. Is the act of cheating on your spouse both a moral action and an immoral action?
No,
he's going to say immoral. It's
immoral. You're immoral to your spouse, but you're moral to someone else.
It's just immoral.
Okay. Again, you're looking at this as like some sort of like mathematical equation. You know, as long as you have a net positive, then that makes the action good. No, that's not how it works. The whole point of a moral system is to create the most happiness, well-being, and health for all parties involved. You're trying to create a situation in which you are not sacrificing anybody's health, well-being, or happiness. If it is the case that the man is unhappy in his relationship, then he should dissolve the relationship.
He is.
I agree entirely.
So his answer is no.
I agree. He's dissolving the relationship. Why does there have to be a legal process to dissolve the relationship?
Because there's a legal process to establish the relationship. If it's a boyfriend-girlfriend thing and they cheat, the relationship's done and over with most of the time. And and that person did a shitty thing, and the other person is going to suffer probably their entire life as a consequence of that shitty thing. So that it's immoral. The relationship is absolved, but you could have gone the route of, hey, I'm not in love with you anymore. And you know what? That action too would cause a little bit of,
Hey, John, he's already admitted it was completely arbitrary, so there's not even any reason to keep questioning it. So
the only point I was trying to make is, do you believe that an immoral action can also produce a moral good at the same time?
No.
But that's what's happening in that scenario.
No, it's not.
You are.
No, that's just your own failure to understand my position.
No, that's your failure to understand my argument.
No, John.
Okay.
His response to your argument is that the sufficient condition for immorality is if one person in the situation is harmed. It doesn't matter how beneficial it is for the other two. It is only an immoral action if one person in the situation is harmed, then the whole thing becomes immoral. It's not moral for the other two.
So how do you handle the trolley problem? JT?
As in, if you pull the lever, you hurt one person, or you pull the lever and you hurt a bunch?
Yeah.
I don't pull the lever.
No. You pull the lever and kill one, or you don't touch it and it kills 4.
5.
Or 5, whatever. For me, I just don't pull the lever.
Same.
I'm not going to participate.
So you're still not pulling the lever, still making a choice.
Yeah, I'm still making a
pulling
choice.
The lever, still making a choice.
I did not control the situation or the circumstances in which those people were tied down to the train tracks. I was not involved in that decision-making process. But if I pull the lever, I have directly chosen to kill another human being, and I'm not going to choose to do that.
I agree with you on that.
People die either way. Okay, there's no scenario in which I can take away the death. That's going to happen, but I will not participate in inflicting that on one person over another.
No, I would pull the lever. I would definitely pull the lever. I want to try to mitigate as much human suffering as possible. So
are you
that's obviously not the dilemma that everybody struggles with.
What?
Are you more of a consequentialist or?
No, I think it's still immoral.
And so
I think it's wrong.
But the thing though, in not doing something, I was going to say the thing in not doing something. Let's say you don't pull the lever and you actually kill the 5, right? If you did pull the lever, you would have only killed 1 and ruined 1 life, and the lives that affected.
And I would have ruined all the lives that are connected to that life.
So if you don't pull the lever, you didn't kill the 5. The nature did, unless it's your job and you're literally the trolley instructor or something. If you're just a bystander and you don't pull the lever, it's not your responsibility. So you didn't kill anybody. If you pull the lever and deliberately kill the 1, you are responsible for that one guy's death. And so I'm going to take the responsibility and kill the guy to try and save the 5. But that's definitely immoral.
It's immoral, but Cease was saying killing 1 versus killing 5 is still not moral, but it just makes it less immoral than letting 5 people die.
Yeah.
Either way, you're committing an immoral act. I just prefer not to participate in the process. Now, if you alter that situation a little bit and you give me more control over it, right? Let's say that I'm somehow responsible for who got put on the train tracks. Well, my decision is going to change, obviously. Or if I know something about the, like, if say the 5 people who are on the train track are all innocent, and then the one person on the other side of the train track is a serial killer, I'm going to pull the lever. So you can add conditions into it that are going to change my response. But all of the changes in my response are going to be perfectly consistent with my moral framework.
No,
whatever my meta ethic is, it's going to be consistent.
It wasn't a trap you kind of thing. I just wanted to see where you stood on that issue.
I didn't think it was a trap. It's a genuine dilemma.
Pastor John, I have something to say. It's because I understand where you were going with, the man cheating on his wife, he's happy, so that's good. And the woman he's with, the new woman, she's happy. But just because something feels good doesn't make it moral. Now, it can be, but not in this particular stance. It's still immoral.
Well, what if let's put another piece in there just to kind of flesh it out a little bit. What if the boyfriend has this severe anxiety because he really wants to be with this other woman, and this other woman has this severe anxiety and desperation to be with him, and they're both suffering from it?
It'd be the moral thing for them to go to therapy, maybe get on some medication.
It's a thought exercise.
Yeah, the man should get a divorce first. So first he gets a divorce and says ends his relationship, and
I
then
thought we were talking boyfriend and girlfriend.
So I would also like to point out something else that's a little bit of a hidden component of this conversation that we're having. So when we talk about secular ethics, right, we have to sit here and flesh this out. We have to contemplate. We have to struggle. Right, we have to really, really fight ourselves on what we should and shouldn't do, and it is something that we have to actually think about. Okay, now you flip over to the theistic moral philosophy, and you are an amoral agent following orders, and you remove yourself from the process entirely.
What do you mean amoral?
I mean, you're not making any moral electives for yourself. You're just following orders.
No, it's a bit deeper than that.
I would vehemently disagree with you.
Because all of our moral intuitions are pretty much the same as yours.
Not quite.
But you're following orders that oftentimes are in direct conflict with those intuitions.
No, that's not true. No,
okay.
That's not true.
Okay.
Where would I be following a moral order that's in conflict with my intuition of what is moral?
Put yourself in the situation of Abraham. What do you do?
What's wrong with what Abraham did?
So if God
that's a problem.
If God commanded you to
kill you, I don't even think it's a literal story, but I'm asking you what is.
If God commanded you to kill your child, would you do it?
No.
Cool.
So then you're not following the orders, right? You have some understanding of what is morally correct and not. That is independent of whether or not God tells you to do X, Y, or Z.
No, I would question whether it's God telling me to do it.
Because you assume that God wouldn't tell you to do something like that, but you don't have any actual justification for God saying, "Okay, well, some entity that you can't
intuition.
You can't decide whether or not this entity is God. It's up in the air, but it's given you sufficient. It's given you sufficient evidence that it could or could not be God. So it's an equal case either way. You don't know if it's God or not.
First of all,
and it tells you.
You're trying to make the story literal and making me decide if I would do something that wasn't a literal story.
Well, let's pretend that Abraham and Isaac didn't happen, but the situation still stands. God tells you, or an entity that you cannot distinguish from God tells you to kill your child. What do?
If something's telling me to kill my child, I'm not thinking it's God.
Because you assume that God behaves in a particular way that you've already deemed moral before you ever came to the God conclusion.
What did I just say a minute ago? What I say?
You believe that killing your child is wrong, right? And if a being were to tell you to do something in conflict with that, you would reject. You would suffer a cognitive dissonance, and you would reject that being could possibly be God.
No,
despite the fact that you have no real grounding for believing that God wouldn't tell you to kill your kid.
I would think I was mentally ill if I thought a being was trying to tell me to kill my child.
Do you think
you're trying to take a non-literal story and make it literal?
Well, ignore the story. We can throw Genesis out. We can just talk about the situation itself. You are in the situation where you have been communicated to by a being which has demonstrated to you with enough sufficient evidence that it could or could not be God. You don't have the ability to distinguish whether it is or isn't God. both are equally plausible. And it tells you to kill your child. And you are saying you would not do that because in your mind, the instruction to kill your child is not something that God would deliver to you. But that is because you have come to a moral intuition about the justification of killing your kid, right? It's wrong to kill my kid. And you believe, working from the bottom or the top down, you believe, presuppositionally that God is good in a way that reflects not killing your kid. So that not killing your kid is a good thing to do, and then God reflects that behavior.
Said moral intuition. That's exactly. I didn't say anything about God commanding me or telling me anything. I said moral intuition.
I did. My point here is that you could be in situations in your moral philosophy. You could enter into a situation where God instructs you to do something that is against your moral intuition.
No, I don't believe
so.
That.
God is incapable of instructing you to kill your child.
I don't believe God would tell anybody to kill their child.
I didn't ask what he would or wouldn't do. This isn't a question about desire or will. Could he instruct you to kill your child?
I don't see why. No, he couldn't instruct me to kill my child.
Then he's not omnipotent.
What? That doesn't. No. That doesn't follow logically at all. You're gonna have to put that in a syllogism and show me how that follows logically.
Omnipotence is the capacity to do all that is logically possible. Instructing someone to kill their child is logically possible. Therefore, God can instruct people to kill their children.
So you're talking about metaphysically possible.
Okay.
That's a different.
I'm just saying, is it possible for God to tell you to kill your kid? Yes or no?
Metaphysically, yes.
We don't need the adjective. It either is possible or it is not.
That's what you're doing. If it's not a contradiction, then it's possible.
What's the other option? What other kind of possibility do you have other than metaphysical possibility?
He's asking if it's a contradiction or not.
Yeah,
he's asking.
You keep saying it's metaphysically possible. What other kind of possibilities are there?
That means it's not a contradiction.
What other possibilities are there other than metaphysical?
There's lots of possibilities.
Like what?
Like there's a possible world that I could jump over houses and buildings. There's no contradiction there.
Yeah, that's metaphysically possible. What's the other kind of possibility? Is there another kind?
I'm not understanding what's trying to say. I mean, I'm not understanding.
John is still on the line. Pastor John, do you have anything to add?
Well, no. I want to know. I'm just not understanding.
He's been very quiet this whole time. He's just waiting patiently. I thought we would let him speak a little bit.
I completely forgot about John. I apologize. That was very rude of me.
Well, while he's quiet, what do you mean by I'm not following the line of questioning?
If it's possible that God could have done it, then if he does do it, then in that situation, you have to think about what you're going to do because he could do it. It's possible.
Yes, it is possible. Absolutely.
Okay, so
but I wouldn't have to think about it because of moral intuition. I wouldn't think it was God.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. I wouldn't think it was God.
Because you have a presupposition that God wouldn't do things that violate your own moral intuitions.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, cool.
See, we're operating on the same moral intuition that you're talking about. You're just trying to say that I'm presupposing mine comes from God, and that's not how it works.
Eddie, I feel 100% confident that I've demonstrated my point to the clarity and understanding of everybody else except you, but you don't seem particularly capable of being convinced of anything. So, love you, buddy, but right now I'm primarily making points for the audience. And you're helping me, by the way. Hey, some of my points have gone so far over your head, they're taking out satellites. I feel bad for this. Yeah.
No, I literally missed the point you were trying to make. Seriously.
Hey, Pasta, I don't think you're muted.
I literally missed the point you were trying to make.
Am I muted?
I was talking about moral
we can hear you, Pasta.
and you threw God in there.
Yes, the point is that you have moral intuitions, things that you believe are right and wrong, which you could come into a situation where a commandment from God would conflict with those moral intuitions.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay. So then in that case, you don't determine what is moral or not moral based on what God wants you to do. So you are operating on my same level. you have a general idea of what is right and wrong.
Right,
and you
that's
operate
what I was
based
trying
on
to tell
that.
you in the beginning. I have
But
the same moral
you sort of
intention.
ex post facto assigned that to God. You've already come to the conclusion about what behaviors and actions are moral and right, and you seem to just assert that those behaviors and actions are in
No.
accordance with God's
See,
nature.
what you're getting at is you're going back to, can an atheist be moral without God? And I've never made that claim at all.
No, that's not even remotely close to what my point has been this entire time.
All I said was we have
Holy crap,
objective
man.
moral facts. We have objective moral facts in the world, and they were grounded in God's nature. And I'm not going to go
much
into
better.
Yeah, it's better.
Thank you, Tom.
I can
Jeff's
hear.
a pigeon, man. Holy crap.
God damn it, guys! You messing with my audio? Who's trolling me? Is it Jeff? Is Jeff back? Where's Jeff?
It's Oz.
No, it's me. It's me.
Well,
I apologize.
Look, we're at the 3 hours and 12-minute mark, so we got to close this down to K Nevs and Eddie. Sorry, guys. The rest of you, we gotta trim the fat. And T Jump's got a rally to go to. JT, thank you so much for coming on, Pastor John.
Absolutely, and I'd love to come back.
Oh man,
guys-
I don't get to finish with JT. Okay.
No, you do. You do get to finish with JT.
Okay.
You do. You guys get to come back on another night if you like. If you guys want to have your own little thing.
Thanks for being here, though.
See you guys later.
I'm going to say
I
this.
wasn't
outright.
even. I wasn't even going to call. I was sitting in my bed and I was just watching the show, and I was enjoying myself, and I was kind of laughing and all these different things. But ultimately, I was so unsatisfied with JT's answer. I put on pants and I walked outside, and
I'm glad you put on pants
talk, so.
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but
I'm not wearing
seriously-
pants. I just got
I feel
my
like it
vest
would be
on and,
immoral
my
for me
shirt.
not to.
I want to thank you guys. And JT, you've got anything for Pastor John before I let you guys roll out?
No, I'd be more than happy to come on here and do another one-on-one with him like I did with Eddie, and I would like to come on.
Now,
and just be a part of
JT,
the
you
show in the
sound super familiar.
Yeah, he was banging.
Are you on
he was
TikTok?
banging in Dark Knight.
No, is JT on TikTok?
I was born into it, raised by it. I didn't see the light until I was already.
No, the next
man,
time there
and
will
it
be
was blinding.
defining of terms before anybody starts.
In the future, if I do come on, like this moral argument just went off the wall. I'd like to talk about something a little bit more concrete in the future, so perhaps a different kind of debate. Like Eddie was talking about, maybe a teleological argument or contingency argument or one of the the cosmological arguments, something like that.
Defined terms.
I think morality is one of the most important arguments for atheists.
Right, and we just
it's one
went
of
on a
the hardest
3-hour
arguments
run
for
with that,
Christians.
and I doubt that at least in the near future that the viewers are going to want to come in and just rehash all that because no offense to you, Pastor John, but I don't think that we're going to break that circle that Eddie and I got locked in.
Well,
So
JT, remember we've got about 2 hours into it, and then I realized that you guys were not using the same definition of objective, and that made a whole big difference in what we were talking about.
I think that's good
Right.
feedback for the next time that we have like a set debate. We're going to have people on to talk about certain things, maybe just do some defining of terms to prevent the confusion in the future for sure.
And we're doing a special coming up on pastors that are almost atheists. So, feel free, John. We love you, bro.
Nowhere near it.
We love you, man.
Okay.
Talk to you soon, man.
This conversation tonight has pushed me even farther. So.
Oh, really?
That's tragic.
Pastor John, everybody. Much love, Pastor John.
All right. Good night, guys.
Take care, man.
Bye. Good night.
He just cussed as he was leaving. He was like, "You guys." I was like, "Really, Pastor John?"
Oh, that's not nice.
Yeah,
That's
whatever.
okay.
Yeah, that's
we
what they do
can
at
we
home.
can bring him on here and we can have some fun again. But Pastor Mike, I'd like to thank you for having me on, man. This was awesome.
Oh no, well, actually, I appreciate that, but thank Eddie because Eddie actually said, "I got this guy." Yeah,
Yeah, he did. He brought me over here. He showed me you guys. So I don't know. It's interesting when somebody delivers the instrument of their own demise.
No,
That's always a fun thing to
we're
do.
talking past each other.
Well, hopefully we solve that issue in the future.
Well, man, thanks a lot. I'm going to leave it to K Nevs and Eddie to have a little chat before we wrap it up. But thank you so much, JT, for coming on, my man.
Absolutely. Is there any kind of after show that you guys do or hang out?
Well, this actually merged into the after show. This is normally the show runs about an hour and a half, so we've kind of gone into the after show. But yeah, you're welcome back on, my man.
After show.
I'll get with
just,
you.
When is the next show?
You tell me.
I mean, would it be sacrilegious for us to do a show on a Sunday?
It absolutely wouldn't.
Oh. I'm available this Sunday, so tomorrow, and then I'm available Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, if you guys are familiar with Dadpool 86, he's coming on tomorrow.
He's cool. I like him.
Great news.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to fangirl if you're on the show as a host. So put your hand out, pop. But,
I'll roll beforehand, get it out of my system.
Yeah, but he's on tomorrow, and yeah. So other than that, we'll get with you, JT. You can come back on and just do a show by yourself. You can come on as a guest and stuff. So yeah, man. Thanks a lot, JT. We appreciate
that.
it.
It'll blow my ego up too much.
You have a good one, my man.
Yep, you too.
Nice to see you.
Well, hey, look, I'm going to get Pastor John's name off the screen here. Well, guys, you guys take the show out. I'm going to give you guys some time to chat, and you let me know when you're done, and I'll roll those credits.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like we covered a lot today. Eddie, thank you for coming on. You're one of my favorite theists.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Hi, you and Pastor John are tied, so it's a competition now. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I love, all the points you make, although I disagree with them, so yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's fun coming on here. Next time I'm gonna have to bring my own team, so keep it out a little bit.
I mean, that's why I was muted for most of it until I couldn't really hold back anymore, because it was, for a while it was just you and T-Jump and JT. I felt like,
well, I got a house full of, I got 3 daughters and a wife, so I'm used to being the odd man out. So.
Okay, fair enough. So what is your story as far as how you, for those who don't know, how you or what's your theology basically?
Mine is more mere Christianity, like C.S. Lewis. I focus mainly on Christ, his teachings. I'm convinced by Christ and the historicity of Christ and the resurrection, and so I'm kind of I'm convinced that there's a God first, and then I'm convinced that Jesus is that God. And after I went, background was a little bit, when I was younger, real young, was fundamentalist church, so I kind of had that fundamentalist mindset, going forward about God, Jesus, and all of that, and ended up really having a lot of questions and issues because I'm a science guy, and I got challenged, and started doing some digging, and the wheels kind of started spinning, and I was like, man, this I don't like this. It just kind of ended up rejecting the whole approach and the dogmatism and the hard lines they take. So
do you give credence to the theory of evolution and the Big Bang Theory? Do you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a science guy all the way. Yeah, it's I don't draw. I mean, I don't create dichotomies that aren't there, because the Bible's not a science book. I believe in a literal Adam and Eve, but I'm not hard line on it. And the only reason I do is because Jesus and others talked as if they were real. But I don't believe in a 6-day creation. I don't believe by the study of genetics that they were the first people, because as we stand now, from what I understand is, from genetic drift, is you can only get to about a bottleneck, so I don't think any of that's incompatible with, God creating. He could have done it all through evolution, just spun it up and let it go. There's no reason for me to draw, issues or create issues there, because there's nothing there that says we're supposed to use it as a science book.
Right. So do you think, just to clarify again, do you think that there's certain things in the Bible that are fallible, not taken literally and not necessarily true? Or
well, I don't really take, real
quick, the reason why I brought that up is because of when I mentioned earlier in the show about Judges 19, about God commanding, people to kill people. And you were like, well, that's if you, take that literally, or if that's actually what happened.
Right.
So do you think certain parts are fallible? Like, can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just what your opinion is.
Absolutely. I accept the Old Testament because of Jesus. I don't accept Jesus because of the Old Testament. He talked of the Old Testament as scriptures, but there's not any, specifics there about exactly what is. And we have a lot of context missing because it's thousands and thousands of years old. So, I mean, to me, being a Christian doesn't hinge on the accuracy of the Old Testament. Now, I don't have any reason to doubt, my idea of infallibility or inerrancy is just in the overall truth that it contains, where there was a beginning and Israel was a people that God called out and, was the bloodline to eventually bring Christ. As far as each individual book and story and things of that nature, I mean, I don't take a hard stance on it because it's so long ago. It's, there's so many things that could be wrong on it, and a lot of it, I believe, was written as the world was. It could have been people thought God were telling them to do these things, but that's not what my Christianity hinges on. Like I said, I mean, I'm convinced by the historicity of Christ, and I think that the resurrection has the greatest explanatory scope for the facts of what we have, written down about Christ. So,
I mean, I'd love to talk to later, because I know we're about to wrap up soon, but one day I'd love to talk to you more about that, just because it's something that puzzles me from about how you look at the Bible and how you view Christianity is like, if the Bible is thousands of years old, and as you said, some things could be wrong in there. So what, and we're not going to answer this now. So maybe think on it, but how do you differentiate what could be interpreted as fallible or wrong or part of the historical time and what could be divine and true?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for next time that we talk.
Okay. Well, I was going to say I could answer it real quick, but save some for the later.
Yeah, say something for later. Give a teaser, cliffhanger for all of the audience.
For sure.
Or, as us fat guys like to say, leftovers.
Yeah. I don't know what you mean by that. I need some of that.
Fair enough.
I love leftovers. But real quick, we did have another super chat. Jim Benton said, Eddie, I would love to have a conversation with you. I think we share many of the same beliefs.
Sweet. I knew there was more of us.
Oh, an atheist troll has gone all night until he hears me say I'm fat. And then he says, Oz is fat.
Jeff, that is so mean. I mean, even coming from you.
He's a troll. He's an opportunist. I mean, it is what it is. he disappears all night. I can't be here. I can't be here. And all of a sudden, Oz says he's fat, and boom, here he is.
Yeah.
Well, Kay, first of all, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And I know you and I were the ones kind of for the most of the night taking notes and learning. And I don't know about you, but certain parts just laughing. And enjoying the spectacle that was, but those are great learning experience for all of us. No matter what side you're on. And yes, atheist Chico. I am not fat. I'm thick with it.
Hey, real quick, shout out to Sean, man. Appreciate it. He likes my beard.
Oh yeah.
It's an epic beard.
Yeah, on the intro of Eddie's first show, we were talking about. I was like, oh no, the beard game's strong though. The beard game's strong. Got to respect the beard game.
I took a while to get it. I used to not be able to grow it anywhere in here, so it looked really funny.
Well, as you can see, like I can grow. At one time, I had my beard like down on my nipples, but I could still never grow it right here. I can't get anything like right here.
Yeah, mine's really patchy too. I have some.
Yeah, I noticed. I wasn't going to say anything, but now that you said it,
I know.
Well, the funny thing is you know, I'm thin in this area. My brother can't grow anything out here, and it's all in here. So I'm like, give me some of that, you know.
The funny thing is, my son. It's weird how this the whole genes and evolution and how all that works. He's getting ready to turn 19 just here in a few days. His beard, he just started growing out. It looks just like mine, like the same growth pattern. Like I was like, oh my God, that's so weird. That's so strange. Yeah. And Pavel D says that Oz has the best beard. So fuck everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
about. No, but it was a good show. Eddie, I know there were we I can't even remember everybody that was popped on screen tonight. But thank you to everybody that was a part of it tonight. And there was some fun parts, some heated parts, some very interesting parts. Wrap it up just in a few sentences, Eddie. How do you feel after this episode?
Yeah, man, it's definitely just I don't know. It's just so I think there was way more talking past each other than there was actually understanding each other. When you got a couple people going at it at the same time, it's like, oh, wait a minute, so it's all good. I mean, I'm thick skinned, I'm a big boy. It ain't gonna, somebody shout some things out at me, I'm gonna shout them back at and keep rolling. So, I don't take anything personal.
Yep. And yeah, we're all grown folks here. We're all grown folks.
Absolutely.
It happens.
Yeah. And guess what? Tomorrow we can agree on things, and the next day we'll probably disagree on some things. And we keep it going. But no, thank you, Eddie, for being back on. And
appreciate it.
We had fun tonight, and hopefully everybody else did too. Everybody's in the chat. Thank you very much for everybody that put a super chat into the comment section. We appreciate it. And I'm still getting a bunch of comments on Eddie and his beards. So that's cool. So
at least I got something going for me. Huh?
We'll keep that as a positive here at the end of the at the end of the at the end of the stream. But no, we do appreciate it, and I just want to make sure we plug at the end. We are partnered with secularshop.com for all of your clothing, hats, stickers. All of that for kids, for youth, for adults. They have clothes, like I said, clothes, hats, and all that. And we're getting ready to go to Christmas. So if you want it, order it now. Order it like right now. Secularshop.com. And in the when you go to checkout, in the area has the code, put TART, TART, and you will receive 10% off. And they're doing the 2020 discount for 20%. So if you do that and combine it with the TART, you're going to save 30% on all of your secular and atheist gear. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. We are the Atheist Roundtable, and we're going to be out.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, have a good one.